today is April 10th and it is 6 o'clock now. And here today, we have myself, Amy Fiden, we have Paul Benjamin, we have Shardul Parmar, Peter Matusco, and Andy Kopacki, all in attendance. We have a full house, so we're gonna not do minutes right now. We're gonna skip that and we're gonna go to the full house because today we will be talking with the schools. We'll be talking to the Council on Aging, Hadley Media, HR, and
Select board.
Select Board.
and
Okay,
Building operations.
okay, and then the treasurer. And so, I'm just gonna grab someone, and, why don't we start with Nikki, if we don't mind, on Council on Aging?
Okay.
Okay. And that would be, let's find out what page in the book here.
41.
41, okay.
Black book in the art time.
I know, I already apologize.
Look on it if you want to.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Alex, it says chair, copy links, anything to say?
Yeah, we're not sharing tonight.
Okay, then I can.
Um,
Yeah, I have a presentation too.
That's okay, I can just talk about it, that's fine. I'm really just looking to speak on the salaries, so I won't waste everyone's time.
well, they both have presentations. If I don't let them share, they can't do their presentation.
No, I'm good,
Here,
really,
wait.
don't worry about it.
Go to all participants.
I'm just gonna.
And since we're waiting, if anyone out there would like to speak, I just want to let you know that you just need to raise your hand.
Push the button.
But let me get
Push the
started.
button.
Amy, I don't wanna waste everyone, there's a lot of people, so you want me to get started? I can speak to it.
If that's fine, sure.
So we're basically looking at the salary lines that we're concerned about right now. They've been short since 2019. I had all of the grid amounts on my PowerPoint. We're looking for the town, they are fully funded positions, and it's basically the admin position and the program coordinator position. From now, I take the deficit, the amount, when I get low, I take it from our EOEA grant. It was meant as a startup grant and it never got transferred over to the town. They get all benefits, they're fully benefited, one's part-time, one's full-time, 35 hours union. So even if we couldn't fully fund this year, I have some grant monies I could utilize. But the issue being is we're getting grant funding, it's getting cut. It's a federal grant that comes down from the state. And so we won't have enough to pay salaries if you're at a pay line.
So you have yourself, just so I know who's
Yep.
on staff, you're yourself, and then you have a full-time person. And then you have a part-time person.
I have 3 part-time
You have 3 part-time.
and
Well,
1,
you have the 2 part-time and a driver, right?
correct. 2
Okay.
part-time, drivers part-time,
Okay.
and then Violet's 35 hours, 1 guy full-time for having
Go
a
ahead, you
salary.
can share it. I
Okay.
changed the setting. I put the waiting room on, so nobody should technically be able to enter without.
Share. That's.
You got it?
Let me just, this is fine, I'm good. So anyway, that's
Okay.
basically where I'm at.
Okay.
Lynn and I've spoken about trying to transition over to get that full amount. Doesn't have to be this year, but I do need something put in there this year to fulfill their salaries to get to FY 26.
Okay.
And it was our goal this year. We just, we started with it there and then we called Nikki back and said, we were going to do this over a few years after all. We've been gradually trying to move it in. We prefer, to have all of the salaried, employees in town to be in an actual budget and not to be coming out of grants and various other funds, because that way we have them in one spot. We can see who's employed and they all, whether they're coming out of a grant or another account or wherever it's coming, we're still paying the benefits from them out of the benefits line, so we need to have a handle on all of our employees, and we would prefer that grants cover other items and that salaries, if we're going to take someone on and on the liability of an employee, we want to have it within our primary budget. So that's what we're working towards with Nikki, and then she can shift different items that come out of grants.
And that's just about federal funding.
Do we have any other, so we're looking at just, we're talking about basically just $10,000 on,
Moving over.
right? Is that what we're talking about, the $10,000? Kind of. The, what was in the book was 49 and I'm seeing 39.
Right.
And
that's
so
right.
that's the one we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Do we have, and so that's you're paying 49, but you're paying it elsewhere. So do we have
Yes.
any other, departments that pay elsewhere like that?
We have had, we've moved library people over from over the years. I think that they're pretty much all in now. Can you think of any others, Lauren? I know that, we're not gonna speak for the school, but that's not really what we're talking
No.
about. We're really dealing with
Well,
what's
I
coming
just,
out
I
of the town
don't
side
remember
budget.
seeing that before, so I just was confused that, others haven't. And maybe I just,
Right, we do have, one employee would be the one hired by the police department, and then it's funded by opioid.
Oh,
funds,
that would
but
be-
at least
okay.
we have that in the budget and it's visible.
Right. There, it's in the
Yes.
budget.
Yes.
The problem with this one is it may not be in the budget.
right,
We're talking about the coordinator position?
And admin,
Yes.
and they're
So,
both fully benefited positions, which I mean, it's just a matter of.
so I can see like year over year,
Mhm.
it's fluctuated.
Right,
And last year, the voted amount, we've already exhausted that halfway through the year.
yep,
So was that, and so is that person then like furloughed or?
No.
So
that we paid out of the grant when that ran
Right.
down.
so that was offsetted by the grant.
The grant
Right.
typically comes in about 13 half a year and then another 13 the other half. It's per person grant. I just finished a recertification. It's 18 pages and it's full of statistics and it basically comes down to how many people come in the center and it's a per head grant is the way they do it.
So what is the actual like if we were to remove all the subsidies, what is the actual cost?
To-
For
That I would need
Yeah,
48,975.
and what is that in that 49,292, is that what the word, that one?
Which one?
I'm talking about the program
that's
coordinator.
what you pay the program coordinator, 49,000.
No,
Yeah.
well, I calculated that differently, so 49,292. Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yes.
So, and what is that salary year, has that salary been consistent, like in 23, 24?
It was a bigger jump this year when they went to use.
Okay,
They went
But
to
it
union
still
and they
was
gave more
always a little
hours,
higher.
I believe, to that position, correct?
For the program coordinator?
Yeah,
No,
they didn't give more
it's
hours.
been 35.
Okay.
No, we didn't give any more hours. So when you look at the 25 voted and going to the 26 requested, those are actually the same hours for the same personnel. It's we're trying to move it over from the grants.
Yeah.
So to fully fund the staff here, it's another 13,300, is that it, or,
48,975 to finish the fiscal year.
you know, for
For that particular position, you're saying?
no, for all the positions, how much are
Are we short?
are we
Sure.
short?
That's coming from grants.
48,975.
40,
And it's not
48,000.
because of raises, it's because they were never fully funded from the general fund, from the town south, but they are fully, they've been hired, they've passed the select board, there's nothing,
okay,
and they were hired as town employees, they were never hired saying, you're gonna be on this grant. And I've been trying to do this since I started in 23.
Right. And I know when I was on finance committee, when we found that was going on, this is over 10 years ago, we're like, we've got to get these into the budget so we can see who's being hired and we can see when people are coming and going,
Yeah.
when there's increases. And there was a bit of a feeling too, when people can hire more people for their department because they've got a grant and another department doesn't have a grant, that there's a bit of an equity, which you'd at least want to be aware of.
Yeah.
So,
So the amounts that are in the requested amount, are those actual salaries?
yes.
Those are the actuals, okay. So those
For
are
the
the
year, yeah.
ones that, it's just hard to compare year over year.
I
Because
understand.
you're saying that those numbers are offset.
Trust me, when I
By-
came in
reduced
and
by
I
the
looked at my
subsidies.
budget, it was
Yeah.
hard to see this building. I
Right.
totally understand what
So,
you're saying.
so from our standpoint,
Yeah.
it's hard to see what their actual increase is because there's the previous,
I might be able to
previous,
do it.
previous budget doesn't really represent what their salary, their actual salaries were.
Right,
It's just the,
It's the
When you
net
look
to
at-
the town is the.
exactly.
Yeah.
when you look at
We don't
the
see-
requested versus the
So
recommended.
program
it's
coordinator was 2484,
13.
and she went up to 2698 an hour. They're
20
they're all hourly.
Oh, they're all
union.
hourly.
All out, except for me. They're all, I have, yeah, all hourly union. And then I have over 100 volunteers in this building that I manage as well, but then I don't need salaries for them, but I mean, it is monstrous.
So,
So we're working with two part-time employees, one full-time, 35. She was 2484, moved to 2698. I know where you're confused. I don't have the balance put in from
Grant.
from,
From the FY
oh, yes, there
twenty-four
will
special
be,
town
that's gonna
meeting.
be,
that's what it
quite high.
is. That's what it is.
Right, and you have.
You
one of
have
the-
to explain that.
Okay.
Cause I don't have that balance. and
Okay.
That's the difference.
so, and these increases,
Mhm.
cause like, and I'm just going line by line. So the
Yeah.
salary director,
Yeah,
it's the voted, the FY 25 voted amount. That's the actual, that's not subsidized, that's 72,000.
that was put in my budget.
That was,
Mhm.
okay, that was, but that's not reduced by any grants or anything, that's the
No.
full amount,
Mhm.
okay. So because, and it's going up roughly 10% year over year. Right?
There is another factor in here, is when we went to special town meeting in the fall. And we had all of the increases for the new union and non-union people but it was right before town meeting and there were still some uncertainties. We put close to $200,000 in the select board budget. To be allocated out. Now, the council on aging one is one of the higher ones. That needed more funding in it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that one apart.
That would allocate.
Right, so I think your amount that is being requested is over 40,000. So there's going to be over 40,000 that should be in her budget, but is sitting in the select board budget right now. So the jump from 25 to 26 is not what it looks like there.
It hasn't been deposited into what I see.
Right,
What
but we
is-
have to do it by town meeting, so that is what, we're going to be amending the 25 budget at the annual town meeting. To make those allocations out so that they're sitting in the right places.
So these, the 25 amounts, that's that in the column that's voted, those are the non-adjusted amounts.
Non-adjusted by grants. Yes, they're non-adjusted by, yes,
It's non-adjusted
yeah,
by the increases.
right, and it's about, it was about 40,000 more.
Okay. Okay, again, I'm just trying to
No,
compare.
I understand.
You
It
can
is
understand.
confusing, cause I'm even confused a little bit, so I look at a budget
Right.
and it's negative, all our
Yes.
salary lines are negative right now. And
It's,
it's fair, I totally
yeah,
understand.
it's just, I'm looking at it and you're seeing, you went from 24 to 26, you're seeing 10% increase
Mhm.
in salaries. And,
Yes, I get where you're coming from.
yeah, it's,
So say
a lot.
again, why do we have to wait till town meeting to
Because
move
we,
it from one to the other?
because it's from one budget to another, and the town's already voted what budgets these funds go into. So,
Are
we
we, isn't
just-
that what we're doing now, budget? Say what,
now you're budgeting for 26.
six?
I'm talking about 25, we
Oh,
have to
mhm.
correct.
Oh, okay.
And what would really help going forward, a couple things. One is and they both these issues are hitting council on aging squarely. One is we need to get all employee payments, salaries into the primary budget, and then that would be an eliminated issue. And the other is, I hope that going forward, this one was particularly late because it was a new union being negotiated. I don't think the contract was even signed by the time of town meeting. So we shouldn't get into that situation again. where 2 weeks or the week before a town meeting, okay, here's the raises, get them, where should we
So,
put them?
so you're talking is the corrections was from previous, so, okay, I
Mhm.
understand that. But why are we gonna why can't we make the correction now and fix it now for just like the 10,000 here for the program coordinator and put them so that we're starting fresh and having everybody on.
Next year it will be, because we will have voted it back into the 25 budget, so when you see 25 next year, you're gonna have
Okay, so,
the new amount.
so if you look at the program coordinator for fiscal year voted 2025, that 27,000. That salary is 27,000 on the town. Yes or no? And then a grant of 15,000
Mhm.
additional.
But on top of that, what Linda is saying is that we voted as part of the raises.
Yes,
So
I get that, but
Those raises were never, we did the raises, but we never said up. I guess we had to have a separate vote to update the budget.
Yes.
For the.
yes, I understand that.
Yes.
But if, I'm just saying.
That's why
that-
it's not that's what she's asking.
Right, I know
Why isn't
that,
it
I get
recognized?
that,
Yeah.
but for us to see that it's not this massive jump. If we
That's why I
do,
wanted
if in parentheses or something, there was a footnote next to the 27,165. Plus a grant of X, whatever it is for a grand total
And raise.
and the raise.
Mhm.
So then you can look at it and go, okay, so 49,292 is not. This
Huge
massive,
increase.
it's not this massive increase that's gonna raise eyebrows, like, wow, what, who negotiated that contract?
That's why I wanted
Okay.
to show myself here
So,
today.
so is that something that we can just, somebody can put together at some point, just footnotes on those, or just to bring us up so that it's easier to read this
This is-
and
This is really the only budget that kind
that
of.
has that in.
Well, you will,
And
Well,
you need a
You
memo.
want,
Like
you
in-
want a whole revised budget with all those two?
No,
lines?
I just want a clarification.
Just
so
on,
that-
on the
just for
council
this.
on aging?
Yeah, just for these three, it's the three, the salary director,
Five.
the director is, is there more money on your,
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
it's everybody.
so everybody, so if
Yeah.
you just put, footnote 1, footnote 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then down below you go, one had, 72,000 plus a grant of this much. And an increase, so that we can see what it is, so that comparing it to 26, you can see that there's not this massive leap, but a, gradual increase like we would expect in,
that was my concern as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
that
okay?
no one
And that way
would
this doesn't
understand.
become a big thing
Right.
at the town meeting as well.
Exactly.
Everybody can understand what it is because
And,
it's clear.
and it
That
won't,
is that.
because they will have voted on the
This
25
is
and they'll
what
have that.
I
in
understand
their
that,
budget.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, I mean, we're telling you, there were no new hours, let alone no new
Yeah,
people.
no, and I
I
think
mean,
that's,
That's-
we're gonna make that clear to people,
Okay.
but we're gonna be going into a town meeting with a lot of issues, and I want as much clarity on this kind of stuff, so that it doesn't become,
Great.
Yeah.
people who look at this and they don't see the explanation, and then all of a sudden it's 20 minutes of everybody's time
What we can-
with, 5 people, questioning it, and we have to explain it there, and it's,
35 hours.
I think just doing a little footnote here would make this a lot cleaner,
Thank you.
okay?
Yeah.
That's all, and it's just
It
this
was a
one,
big concern of
this
mine.
is the only one here that we have to deal with,
Yeah,
I think that was.
Certainly important here in this.
Yeah, I think so.
But there are other budgets
So-
that have compensation that
Well,
are not covered
there's,
by grants?
this is the largest.
Okay, and one other question, so the grants themselves
Mhm.
are not available anymore, we would assume?
We don't know. This
We
is
don't
the
know.
funding from the grant source.
Fine.
So
So
there-
then if we get,
Yes,
if
that's
by
another
chance,
reason to
I
move
know,
them into the
oh,
budget.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so if by chance, just so people know the answer, and I'd like to know it,
Yeah.
if by some miracle Massachusetts gets a federal grant that
Mhm.
comes through to this, for this particular item, and we get, let's say, $10,000 a person or whatever, okay? Then what happens? We will apply it to that and we'll be able to move money back to the general fund, we'll be able to, or free cash, or how does that work? When you get a grant against these that we're not counting on now.
Well, the
Or am I
goal
not
is to
this-
get them fully funded from the town
town.
fund, not the grant.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
won't apply for grants for those positions anymore, is what
We'll
I'm saying.
still have the grant. That was the.
The grant's not necessarily for people?
That's
It's
an
right.
initiative.
Fine,
That's
okay.
what,
It's never.
Okay, that's fine,
It's
that's
an
what I needed to hear.
initiative grant.
I thought it was a grant for personnel to help,
No,
fine, that's all I
Just the
needed to
dri-
hear.
Just the drivers.
and
No problem.
that brings up the PBTA.
Yeah.
That one
Yeah.
is just for personnel.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
But that's good to
that's-
know, That's
That's right.
another thing that somebody might ask is, well, then why aren't you applying for these grants to
Right.
lower our costs?
You know, and that is, I think, and that is the third, I think it two reasons for bringing it in. The
Yep.
third one is so that we're protecting these positions in the event that the federal grant is completely wiped out, or whatever grant is completely wiped out. In the meantime, if, we're fortunate enough to have
Mhm.
continuation of some of these grants, there's other programming that it can be applied to.
I don't have positions in our kitchen. Those are all volunteer staffed, and that's what I wanted to use that initiative for about Thursday night. So that'll probably be FY 20.
Thank you.
Thank you. And PDTA is also, I did ask for additional hours for 3 hours, but it's not necessarily additional 3 hours on the driver salary. That's run by PBTA grant. It's a 50-50 match.
Right.
So if we match it, it's in the money, it's in the budget, so
Okay.
it all depends if the request gets approved in FY 26 from PBTA. I haven't heard it.
And that's a reimbursement grant. That's not a grant that pays them directly anyway. So
no.
those have all,
It goes
those
to the
positions have
general
always
fund.
been in the budget. The grant,
But it
comes
goes,
and does the reimbursement,
that money goes to the general.
which is, goes to the general fund.
And
It's-
we
it's a
do-
revenue.
We do the reimbursement request here, and
Yes,
it's
you do.
typically each month, about 1,700 we request. And half of that is supposed to be supplemented by the town, which to a degree, I guess it is, because the admin costs and all that, and the other 50% is from PBTA. So we get a check cut for half of whatever we send the receipt in for. I actually have a copy of one, if you want to see.
Can you tell us approximately how many people come through here?
It's approximately about 2,800 a month, we 26,000 last year, we're at 24,000 this year. Which really makes me concerned also about another area that we don't look at because it's so pretty, but things are gonna start to break. And, you know, we don't, our building maintenance, we have a lot of meetings after hours, we can't have, there's no funding for security. There's no funding for who comes in the building, who comes out the building. And we've been here going on, was it 2020? They've been in the building.
That's fine.
And now things are starting to wear. So it's concerning, not for my budget, for DPW is my concern, because no one really, it's great you have a building, but no one had the foresight to look and say, well, that warranty is going to expire next year, you know, so what do we do about that? These Bluetooths right there, both of them we're having problems with, they're loose, $1,500 each plate to fix. So I mean, the design is all, you know, up there.
Yeah.
Things you can't see,
And how many volunteers do you have?
well over 100. And we really, a lot of our volunteers are active like employees here.
Yep.
Our reception group, we have over 14 receptionists and they work so well till they split. So they come in for a half a shift till noon and then the next one comes to 4. So, and they're all from the community. It's great. That's my favorite group.
Your courses are all run by volunteers as well.
Most of them.
All the
yes.
exercise coaches.
Yes, and I actually, we only charge as little as possible. We have 3 rotating instructors every month. So that runs about 800 a month, but we charge less than 5. And we try to keep doing that. We supplement them.
All right. One down. There's basically
Wonderful.
one up.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so
very
much. Thank you for your,
Appreciate it.
Good job.
your explanations.
Is there anyone else that is in our, that wants to leave? Are you just gonna stick around for a little bit more?
Are you, anyone else feel I should?
Well, it's up to you.
So.
Okay,
I had a good day already.
okay,
I'll go next.
okay.
I have the longer version, just like last night, with the more notes on it,
For House on
let me get
Aging?
those.
Or
For
for-
my budget.
Oh, for-
Yes. Thank you. Here, I'll grab it.
Nikki, I'm really sorry.
Is that what you can do afterward for?
Apparently last
for
night was
House
just
on
so bad.
Aging? Is that what you were thinking, Paul was thinking of with the notes?
I
Is that
have
what
a
that is
number.
with the notes?
I Sure, and then you can three-hole punch it and put it in your budget. I mean, you can have these longer versions of it if you want.
Okay, well, I was
Yeah, for
thinking
most
that's
of them, yeah.
what you were giving us here was updated stuff with notes. Okay,
Well, the updated part is from the book, the difference in these budgets is because this is directly from my workbook on the budgets. And so I update the year-to-dates quarterly. So in the budget book, when that was put out, the year-to-dates were only through December and these are through March. And the notes are generally what come in when the departments submit their budgets for consideration in the first place. And then my comments over to the right usually come from me. So this is it's a working copy, but you know, since the book came out, you've all expressed interest in having a bit more detail, so that's why when I'm back to them. So yes, I can work on one like this for council on aging as well.
Thank you, Linda.
I'm just, before anyone starts, I'll pass these around before I leave, because this kind of explains how we operate.
oh,
So
wonderful,
just give you a little idea of what happens.
thank you.
Nikki, if you want to email me your presentation, I'll make sure they all get it.
Yeah, sure, no worries.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a
Thank you
nice
very
night.
much.
Take care.
So in terms of the HR operational budget, we're not talking about, say, benefits or any of that portion, just what it takes to operate HR, the salaries in my department. What I wanted to talk to you guys about was the cut of the position for the HR assistant. That this year is currently a full-time position. It has been recommended to cut it into essentially a half-time position. My concern with that is that, you know, we've been lucky enough to have Joan, who's very efficient. And certainly our office right now is completely understaffed. You know, we have Joan part-time. I don't have an HR assistant. I have myself right now. That's, you know, spread pretty thin. My concern is with someone new coming into the payroll and benefits coordinator position, and then only a half-time HR assistant. Things are, you know, not gonna get done as Hadley is used to. You know, Joan felt that it was necessary to have someone full-time. She felt she couldn't handle the workload, so my concern is whoever comes in will not be efficient and not be able to kind of handle that workload. That's, you know, kind of gonna be coming down the pike, especially with the backlog. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to the attention. Certainly, we're looking to fill the positions right now. So hopefully, you know, to be determined, but I also don't want to pull from other people's budgets because I understand, you know, if you say, yes, you can have the full-time position, it's taken from somewhere else. So I do understand that, but definitely want to relay my concerns, based on, you know, kind of the HR issues that kind of happen, in Hadley and just what I'm noticing. So, the recommendation was to cut it essentially pretty much a dollar amount, depending on what we bring someone in, depends on, I guess, you know, how many hours I can get out of that person. So the range right now is somewhere between, I think, 19 and 23 hours a week. So I guess my concern is definitely for the efficiency of the office and how things are getting done and might not meet the needs of Hadley. That being said, I was given the opportunity to do a new program, which I'm hoping will help with efficiency and payroll. But it does take people to implement that stuff, so that is an additional workload on the office.
Is that payroll service?
Yes, yeah, so that's for time and attendance and onboarding.
And what is this payroll? It's like online putting people's time cards in or hours or.
Time and so it tracks their absences and filters right into our payroll system. It also has time cards or clocking in and out, say at like the DPW. So right now, everything is manual for most of the town, which is part of the inefficiencies. You know, we don't have a recruitment platform. Everything's paper in the HR office.
We've had the payroll services for
Yes.
quite a while. These are additional modules.
Yes.
Which will expand the service that we have.
Mhm.
They seem very worthwhile. In the past year, Lauren and Joan were able to move to, online for, people to log in and see see their own, pay stubs and
W-2s.
get their W-2s and all of that. You know, I think what probably every company you all work for already has. And I know my son, who's almost 30, has never met an HR person. Everything's onboarding online, and he gets his W-2 and the money goes straight into the bank. And, you know, ever since I was there until about 6 months ago, every Friday, first it was every Friday morning, then every other Friday morning, we got the FedEx delivery of everyone's pay stubs. And then they would get passed out to every department. And, so that's one efficiency that has
So
been
I
happening.
have a question on that payroll. When was the last time we looked at what other companies have to offer?
So.
I mean, and did a comparison, and maybe is there another company that could offer something?
They're
Which
much
company
more
do we use?
expensive. We use Harper's.
Harper's is pretty universal
yeah.
and with mass municipalities.
Yes.
And they did go out and get quotes from other companies.
Yeah.
This is the most economical.
When was the last
option.
time?
Earlier this year.
Oh, this year?
Yeah. They actually, I'm sorry, I don't mean to answer
No,
for you,
go
but they did it, Troy started it, Joan and I continued it, Lauren finished it up. This has been an ongoing.
Yep. And
They
Doug
had-
and I were probably about 2 years before that, we had them in.
Hour-long presentations, hours-long
Oh, sure.
presentations, looking at what different services to pick and choose from. Due diligence has been done
The
on this.
expense is, I know from when we were looking before, considerably higher with the other companies,
Yes.
quite a bit.
So this is payroll benefits and you've add in the Clockworks.
So it's time and attendance and onboarding is the additional portion. And what the time and attendance will do, it will track the attendance of, you know, our employees when they're off, what time they're trying to use, and will automate the payroll process. Right now, Joan gets time cards and she has to sit there, review the time cards, make sure they're signed, make sure everything's all set, look for any inconsistencies.
Add
And
them
then
up.
she adds
She has
them
to
up.
add them.
Because we all met
They're
up
all in hand.
all the time.
Contact department heads if there's any issues. She then, if there's no issue, she then goes and enters manually all this information. And so you can understand that takes quite a bit of time, to do. So, you know, she does that on the school side and every department, in town. So this will help automate quite a bit of it.
So, yeah, that would be my question, because the payroll that and everybody's different, and I'm just, the payroll I'm used to is all so automated. You just sign into your computer and you punch in and you punch out, and
That's the
it's
goal.
all automated and added up, and yes, it might be, some places might be more costly, but if they're more costly and they're doing all that work, well, then maybe that offsets all the time that the payroll person is doing by manually putting everything in.
So to be clear, that's what this program is doing at a much cheaper cost to the town than going
To the other
other
companies.
programs. So, the time and attendance will automate the payroll.
So you're not gonna have to do this anymore?
No, this is the process now. And so, you know, it was posed to me that, we have to do this, which I agree with, you know, it's an efficiency, you know, issue. We have to move towards a time and attendance system. So with that money being allocated, the HR assistant position had to be cut. So,
The next closest company, I believe, was about $42,000.
Yeah, it wasn't a little more.
Yeah, it wasn't like $4,000 more, it was 42,000. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you got a better price from Harper's because we were an existing customer as
Correct.
well.
So they didn't increase our rates, into the next fiscal year. They kept our rates the same and, we've gotten a pretty good deal with them, so.
So you have time sheets. Time clock now and again, absence.
Yes.
How are, on the time clock side, how is that managed? Is that just,
We write it on a sheet of paper, we type it into our computer and then print the paper and do it like that. I can show you my time sheet.
I'm just
At the-
curious if when we get to the next level of automating that part, the time clock, whether that be, a municipal device, an actual electronic box 2 card or something like that, or
So for departments like the DPW that, where they will clock in and out, they will have what we've decided to go with because it's got no cost to the town is, essentially an iPad that will have, a web page up where people can clock in and out of, at the DPW. Certain employees will be able to use their phone. When they enter the town of Hadley, they can clock in and out, because there are certain features like DPW where they may get a call back, and they have to come in so they can clock in within a certain radius of Hadley. So we plan on putting a couple of iPads up, allowing some of the employees to put an app on their phone to clock in and out from. Others will have time cards, but it's electronic. Again, it's through their employee self-service, which they already have. They'll go in every Friday, enter their hours, and it will be so much easier to approve, deny, push it through, and it will automatically upload into our payroll system, which is going to be a huge time saving. So,
cut down on errors too.
yes,
So, I mean, I'm sure error correction is
yes.
a big piece of this.
He always are
Yes, it is.
ashamed when Joan brings in the sheet of paper with the circled red on it. And they're like, I swear I know how to add up to 7.5, I swear. And she pats you on the back and says, of course you do.
But this needs to be fixed.
Yes, but this
And we
needs
need
to
a
be
new one. She's good with numbers.
Do you have anything else, Lauren?
No, that was all I wanted to bring to your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thanks. Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. McKenzie?
Is it Alex?
Well, Alex, it's up to you. Alex sometimes stays because I had the media.
I'm good with Annie going before me.
Okay.
He's over me, so.
Oh, yes, all right. I do have for the finance subcommittee. Obviously, I know the way, as you all know, the way that the law works in Massachusetts is the school committee approves the budget at a public hearing. That public hearing is advertised in the paper. We've had a public hearing on the budget and they recommend the budget. And the town votes on local contribution, which is why you see that one line, which is what the town essentially has control over. But I have additional information for you, because that one line doesn't tell you a whole lot, so I'll make sure that that's this here. Thank you. Have you seen that?
And there's so much here
Need another.
with the schools, I have to say, this Annie will probably go over a lot of things that will highlights and what will affect us, but to get into a lot of more details, that will probably, we'll do that at another,
Yeah.
probably another time to get into all the, if there's questions on all particular line items and things like
Sure.
that.
Sure.
It is something that we would love to
I'll-
understand some more and talk to you.
I'm happy to come by whenever you'd like. I will just hit some of the high points. And Linda, I have some information that you may not have yet, which is good news. So hopefully good news, although I say to you that
That's
we
rare.
never know for sure until we know for sure. So I'll go through 4 big chunks and draw your attention to certain pages in this presentation. So that first page, certainly when we're talking about a budget, and school department budgets are typically the largest budget in any town. Although you will notice at the end of this, we'll put this in context and say, what percentage of total town operating total town operating expenses are the schools. And actually, it's a much lower percentage than you see in surrounding communities. But the four big questions, I think that when we're looking at school department expenditures that we want to talk about are, what are we investing in? What is the goal here? What does our revenue picture look like? What are our expenses and what's driving those expenses? And then what is the return on investment? So now that we're stewards of taxpayer hard-earned money, and there are many competing priorities in town. It's, any finance committee and the select board and the taxpayers should ask, what are we getting as a return on investment for that level of investment? So what are we trying to do? Just one simple sentence. We want to design a system where every child gets what they need so they can achieve what they dream. We've worked really hard to invest in systems that ensure that students who require additional assistance or stretch, like more advanced coursework opportunities, or students who require supplemental interventions, that we design a system that ensures all students receive those services. I will say the staff has done a monumental job. When I arrived here about 11 years ago, we did not have any systems, what are called tiered systems of support. So if you have students who are advanced and need more challenges, or students who struggle a bit, you have a range of interventions and supports you can provide these students. We didn't. We had special education and general education, and that was it. We've developed far more robust systems. The payoff for that, I think, is we can see in our data. So I'm going to flip back to the revenue page, but I would ask you to take a look at page, and thank goodness I numbered down. To take a look at page 10, if you wouldn't mind. And on page 10, the second chart there talks about what's called selected populations. So what is the demographic makeup of our schools? And you can see in fiscal year 19, students who qualify as high needs, that's not my definition, it's the state definition. It means a student who either qualifies as low income, has an individual education plan, or a federal plan for special education, or is a student with disabilities, a student who has low income, or a student who is an English as a second language student, or a combination thereof. So in fiscal year 19, roughly 29% of our school population was considered high needs. That has increased to just over 40. It's a roughly 40% increase in that time. However, I will also tell you that our accountability data, the percentage of points one can get, think 100 is good, 0 is not so good. In school year 18-19, our accountability percentage, even though our high needs population was 29%, our accountability percentage was 56%. And last year it was 81%. So despite students requiring more, we are delivering more, we're getting better outcomes. And I'm particularly proud of what the staff has done there. So that's a huge investment. As a part of that stretch, we've also invested in ensuring that our students in K through grade 12 have high quality digital literacy and computer science experiences, and that we've incorporated something called Project Lead the Way. And these are very high quality STEM courses all the way from K. We have them elementary and high school, and we'll be adding middle school in the next couple of years. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. On page 2, just a snapshot of our revenues. You can see, I understand that the town has many competing priorities, and the revenue picture is really tight for fiscal year 26. I do know that Linda worked so hard, and so did Mike, to do everything they could to deliver a higher increase for the school department. But we understand, and we understand that the other departments need things. I would plead and beg that please don't reduce it anymore from the 1.34% over last year. That is a very modest increase. If you read the papers and listen to school districts all around, average increases are much closer to 6%. In some cases, they are double digits. And if you want to look at page 3, just to see year over year, what our increases have been. And since fiscal year 20, the increase to local contribution has averaged under 2% during that time period, with no single year being above 3%. So how are we going to make it work next year? Because we also have seen some changes and decreases in grant funding. It's nothing to do with federal government taking any money. There's some grants that were a 3-year period that we were using, and we're in year 3 right now. So we have had to rely heavily on school choice. That's not necessarily a bad thing to do, but school choice is not a guaranteed income stream. By definition, it's somewhat volatile. So it does create what one would call structural weaknesses in the budget if you're overly reliant on it. But we do again understand what the town is up against next year. And I can't say enough about the other departments that I work with. And it's important to me that they are also funded because they do such good work and work that helps the schools. So if you look at page 4, one thing a town does not want is to set up a fiscal cliff scenario. What we don't want to do is be all over the paper talking about there's several districts around us that are cutting music, they're cutting art, they're cutting student-facing positions, they are laying off teachers. Layoffs, of course, cost towns as well, and unemployment insurance and other expenses. So we don't want to set up a situation where we're designing a fiscal cliff. On page 4, I'm responsible for saying to the school committee, yes, we're using a lot more school choice, but you can also see that correlates with an increase in school choice students. So you see how the numbers gone up. The top bar graphs are showing you the increase in school choice revenue that we're applying to the operating budget. And you can see from fiscal year 20, where we had 113 school choice students, and this year we have 144 school choice students.
Is that that's K through 12?
That is K through 12. Preschool does not participate in school choice because it's not required by law. So it's a paid program regardless, I should say, unless you have a child with special needs and you're a Hadley resident. Those services are covered per federal law for no charge. The expense side, you can see on the chart on 5, it shows you, as in most cases, I mean, typically in government and service, what's the largest driver in the budget? It's usually people. That's what we spend most of our money on. But you can see the most volatile parts of our budget this year are on the tuition line. So we are looking at a out of district tuition that we could be responsible for. Not a current student, but just how the law works. We're looking at the likelihood of we would pick the student up. And how can that happen? That's when students are in different forms of custody. So if they're in DCF custody or other forms of custody, or they move into adopted homes, sometimes students can move into the district, and they may be in placements that are extremely expensive, out of district placements, and we're obligated by law to pay for those. So that line, tuitions, can be really volatile. It's hard sometimes to predict year to year what will happen there.
So that's not like somebody's a Hadley student, school choice is out.
No, I'll explain that finance when we get to school choice, but these tuitions include in this line, these include special education out of district tuitions. Those could be at private special education schools. When I say private, I don't mean like Deerfield Academy, but something that's referred to as a therapeutic program. Another public school where we're paying tuition to that public school. I will say to you that we have designed our own program at Hadley Elementary and are actually accepting students on tuition. We were able to apply some of those revenues next year, again, to help us navigate a minimal increase to local contribution. This can also be technical vocational education chapter, what's called chapter 74. So they'll get tuitions.
Okay, so
In that line.
somebody goes to Smith Vogue,
Precisely.
they
Yes.
would be covered.
Correct. Correct. That's within that line. And that line can fluctuate from year to year. That we do everything in our power to try to design and offer programs that would encourage people to remain here in Hadley. I think we've done a pretty good job of that. And I'll show you some charts with that. So those are go ahead.
No, just curious, in terms of percentage of that amount, is that mostly, if you were to say of all the categories that you had mentioned, was that mostly, okay, people going to Smith?
No,
In
one
terms of our
out of
cost.
district therapeutic special education tuition, not including transportation, is $100,000 of that $219,000.
Wow.
I'm not gonna take you through each line of this on the expense side. I'm gonna move you toward some of the things that drive revenue and enrollment and talk a little bit about school choice and how that works. I'm gonna ask you to look at page 9, if you wouldn't mind doing that. So the good news, when you look at that top chart, that is your total enrollments. So the good news is district-wide, although we did see a decrease at Hopkins Academy, but district-wide, we have an increase of 3%. It's predominantly school choice. Because if you look at the next page, page 10, that chart shows you foundation year. And this is where Linda every year tries to make magic with the Chapter 70 revenue, which goes up by very little. So your state aid is not dictated by a child in every seat. It's not based on total enrollment. That's taken care of in school choice. Your state aid is Hadley resident children for whom you are fiscally responsible. And so when your resident enrollment, when the number of families with children decreases in a town, you're going to get less Chapter 70 funding. You don't have resident, whether they're attending here or not, because school choice gets worked out somewhere else. This drives your Chapter 70 aid. We are, because it is flat, or if it declines, we are in what's called hold harmless. What that means is in the budget, your Chapter 70 funding stays flat. And as you know, expenses, fuel goes up, people go up, things go up. Your Chapter 70 funding remains flat. And you get an additional $70 to $5 per pupil. So again, this year it's roughly about $33,000 that you're looking at as an increase. That's why I say Linda has to make magic happen with that. So again, what do we rely on? Page 11. We have 144 students coming in. And on the assessment side, school choice out, that's one of the assessments that Linda sees on her Division of Local Services, what's called a cherry sheet. So she sees that there, and we are working really hard to make that expense decrease. And you can see we have far more incoming than we have students going out.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Looking at on page 10 that,
Sure.
I'm just kind of looking at the low income.
Mhm.
The percentage it's going up, because
Yeah.
it's pretty much the difference from 18-19 to 24-25 is the difference in that low income. Does that include school choice kids?
In our district enrollment, yes,
No, in terms
yes,
of.
yes, it does. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
in
that-
this chart, it
So-
does.
So that does include,
It
not
does.
just, it's not just Hadley residents, but also
Correct.
all.
Thank you for clarifying that. It
Okay.
does, yes. Yeah, and all of these data are available when I say in the parentheses where you can find these data. They're all publicly available. And so when you look up any school district, you're looking at total enrollment, not that Chapter 70 resident foundation enrollment. You're not looking at foundation, you're looking at total enrollment that includes school choice.
And going back to page 10 again, for that decrease in foundation enrollment, that's basically those Chapter 70, that impacts that amount. What else does it impact?
That's what it impacts. That's it. That drives Chapter 70 is the number of students for whom a town is fiscally responsible, which means if they have an education, an IEP, if they are a student who receives special education services, you're fiscally responsible for their education until their 22nd birthday. All other students until time of graduation, and they're Hadley residents. The students, they might choice out somewhere else, which again gets kind of cleaned up in a different place. But that's Chapter 70, and that's what it drives, is that state aid amount.
So that's Chapter 70 is primarily for operational expenditure. It doesn't include capital. Does it-
Correct.
does
It's
that-
state aid that goes to the town, and it's roughly, Chapter 70 this year, I think it's roughly 1.3 million. Does that sound about right? Or am I making that up? I'm probably,
That
okay.
sounds good.
But does that, would that affect us going forward for, let's say, if we were to apply for capital grants, things like that?
No, if you're asking if the town, for example, apply for capital grants, does this have an effect
Meaning
on
the
it?
school, how does it affect your
can.
other financial?
It can, but usually the competitive grants that I apply for, so it really only affects Chapter 70 on the revenue side. The kinds of grants that I apply for usually look at the actual district enrollment. So I just applied for a huge equipment grant for science equipment, lab science equipment. And we had to meet a threshold of low income, and we did. So I was able to apply for it on actual enrollment, not chapter 70 enrollment. Okay, and I just, because it's gonna bug me, and I actually have it up, Linda, I think I did just make that number up, but I'm gonna tell you very
Good
quickly.
question myself.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the carrying over, you know, the
Sure.
total foundation enrollment and
Mhm.
putting underneath looking at the choice in numbers.
Mhm.
And doing the percentage, of course, and it was at roughly 20% back in FY 20, and now we're up at 32% of the enrollment is choice in.
Yes, so this is a conversation the school committee is been having too, is what are the implications of that? Now, I think that, obviously, it's vital. I mean, you see, we're applying almost $1.6 million of school choice revenue to make sure we have a balanced budget in FY 26. By having school choice and attracting many students in school choice, we're able to then offer many more programs to our resident students. And I'll get into what some of those programs are. If we didn't have that, that would be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah,
You can
I
see,
mean-
and you can see districts where, not like that, but districts where they're gasping for air.
I mean, you know, certainly tip of the hat when you look at the page 4 with the fiscal year, you know, the cost per student was about just under 6,000 of the funding that was getting for students coming in for the school choice, around just under 6,000. And for 25, it's just under 11,000 per student. So the revenue coming in. So we're getting a lot more for kids choicing in now.
So the amount always stays the same, but we're able to, I would say we stretch those dollars and apply those dollars in a pretty intelligent way. And I'll explain what we get for, so the amount that we get for school choice is a flat amount. We pay $5,000 for every child who leaves, and we get 5,000 as a base rate for any child who comes in under school choice. If the child has an IEP, we get something called a special education increment. We are allowed to then bill the sending district for every single one of those services. There is a state rate. So the state sets the rate and we bill for them. The reason why sometimes people say, wait a minute, but I look on the DESE website and it says that it costs, let's say, state per pupil right now is roughly $15,000. If it costs $15,000 to educate a student and you're only getting 5, something is wrong here. The reality is that we have students, let's take speech language pathology. We have enough students in our district that require these services. So we're going to pay for a speech language pathologist regardless. If a child comes in through school choice and they have speech language services on their individual education, what's called an IEP grid, they have those services, we get to bill that district for that. Now, we didn't pay that educator anymore. We would have been paying that salary regardless, right? So these are expenses for the most part. A child comes in to first grade, second grade, that is a seat, that teacher would have been there regardless. So it really is just, it does work to our benefit.
Because there's no real expense for the incremental.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
the actual expenses are caught in special ed increment.
Yeah,
Where-
thank you for explaining that. And so that, and those, additional revenues are reflected in that 1.56
Correct.
million.
Correct.
So that really is why
Additional
we're
revenues, it could be carried over from a.
basically
previous year.
doubling the cost of
Yeah.
that we're on reimbursement from the state.
And I will just show you on 12, we don't anticipate what's a little surprising to me, because we have invested, and you folks heard about this when I presented to select board. We have been at the forefront in terms of high quality college and career pathways. So the state started offering funding for this in roughly about 2018. It was clear to me when I looked at the governor's budgets, when I looked at the direction that revenue was going in the state, that this was important to bipartisan governors. It was important to Baker, it's important to Healy, and they increase this line every year in the state budget. These programs are also really good for children, I should say that, that's the most important thing. And they're also good for our bottom line. So we started applying for high quality college and career pathway designations. What those are, in early college, students can take up to 12 college credits completely free, complete those while they're in high school, they're all transferable. our career innovation pathways. We have several, I'll go through all of them in just a moment, but in these high quality career pathways, students take a specific sequence of courses in an industry sector, biomedicine, engineering, computer science, and they also do internships. What we were noticing was, I'm sorry, I'm showing you virtual here. We'll get to CTEC. What we were noticing was a steady decline. We have received a number of applications for vocational ed next year, this like uptick. I'm assuming that that would be an anomaly. I would get alarmed if we started seeing this, but you'll see a chart that shows we've seen a steady decrease in our career and tech ed enrollments. This, I'm sorry, is virtual school expenses. That $25,000, I think, is 2 students right now in virtual schools. Yeah, the virtual school choice tuition rate is obviously slightly higher than that of regular school choice.
You say those are college courses?
No, I'm sorry. In the
This-
virtual
this is-
school tuition, it's virtual school. So you're talking the Commonwealth Virtual School in Greenfield, or another one, it's called TECA. I don't remember what the acronym is for. And, yeah, so that's virtual school tuition.
So somebody, a Hadley resident
Correct,
child
correct.
is
In a virtual school,
in a virtual school learning
yes,
online.
correct.
But not at home. We're not talking they're at home. They're.
They could be. They could be, but they're enrolled in the school. Well, they would be, yes. I'm
They would
sorry,
be
Could be,
home.
they are.
They would be
Yes,
at home.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go through on 13 and 14, but I will, if you're interested, we paid very close attention to where students come from, where they go to. You know, I will point out to you the second community listed there. We paid very close attention. We were working really hard in FY 21 because we had twice as many students leaving as coming in. You can see we've worked on reversing that. So, sorry, it's the one before
One
that.
before, yeah.
So we pay attention to that and then we ask ourselves, what are the programs that they have that perhaps we could create to keep our students in? We pay close attention to, on the following page, Choice In and Choice Out by grade as well. The good news on page 15, which I think will be good news because it looks like bad news here, is we had, and I apologize because it says through FY 26 and I only have FY 25 data there. So we know right now we have 46 students attending charter schools. Our cherry sheets, which actually the chapter 70 was 1.4 million this year. Our cherry sheet, the charter estimate for expense, Linda, I believe that they used January data, and the January data had 47.7 students attending charter schools. And my April data actually indicates that we will only have 42. So you want to just keep your eye out on that,
And that's
because on the
last year
expense side,
as well.
you guys should be in much better shape.
Right.
Assume that these charter tuitions are roughly, they're somewhere between 12 and 17, call them 15 each, because I don't know what the
Do
five
they
is.
start by basing them on a prior year or they
Correct.
actually thinking
Yeah.
account there?
Yeah.
Okay, they don't
So
actually.
now the April numbers are closer. Those are the ones who are pre-enrolled. And so I think you should be looking at, 5 times 15, roughly maybe $75,000 to the good for you.
So what did you say that the average, oh, I'm sorry. go ahead.
No.
When it comes to the child coming into our school. Of there being 144 students,
Yeah.
which is great. How much is the town getting in for
School-
student?
So
For
school
school
choice is $5,000
Okay.
flat. And you don't see the school choice as a revenue on the cherry sheet. It doesn't, and this is by law. This isn't the school committee trying to take this into account. This is by law. In law, school choice revenues are under the jurisdiction of the school committee. They go in, Linda has all the
Right.
receipts that she sees, and it goes directly into that revolving account. And then we apply it to the budget. And it's 5,000, whether it's in or out.
Mhm.
And the special ed increment works whether we're sending kids or receiving kids. I will tell you that for special education, very few of our families of children with disabilities choice out, which is good news. We actually receive way more revenue in school choice special ed increment than we do send to other districts. They stay and they recommend other families to come here. That the school has a wonderful reputation. On choice, I really have to give credit where credit is due. Nobody ever walked up to a child and said, hey, what district do you go to? Like, kids don't care, families don't care, I don't matter. Kids go to schools And it's principals and teachers that bring them in. And so this is all about our principals and teachers.
What schools do you notice that when it comes to them going out for choice out? What towns or schools have they been, that you've been seeing more of going to?
In terms of leaving,
Yes.
the only place where we run a deficit, the only community I believe is Frontier. And I have said to my good friend and colleague Darius that I am going to make that not be the case. That
Page
is-
13, definitely.
Yeah, so, but I can
Last
tell
two
you
columns.
Frontier and, we interview students, we ask them. Usually they'll talk about, just wanting a larger space or regional school, a different set of kids. It's usually for social.
In Amherst too, I see too, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, although you'll see that what's changed in terms of numbers out,
The opposite.
Yeah,
We have
what's
more
happening.
percent out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but look at it, in 21.
yeah, so that's really changed.
Is sports still a big motivator?
See that?
And I will say this for families to hear, because we are not allowed to approve a school choice exit based on sports alone, so never tell me that's the reason you're leaving. But so, but I do imagine, and so you're not allowed to, the MIAA prohibits exercising school choice solely for that
That's good
purpose.
to know.
So tell me the right thing, and please don't leave. I talked on 16 about vocational school enrollment. That's where I'm telling you, we saw this odd, because see how we went from 35 in fiscal year 19 down to 13 this year. And then we see, these are only applications. They aren't guaranteed. So we're not sure yet on page 16. But that also is affecting our tuition line. And then, just to put it in context, so again, I will say a 1.34% increase is really, really lean. It's really lean. And it has required a lot of work on our end, but I also know it is not for lack of trying. And the towns really do support the school. I show you on page 18. The town does give above required net school spending. So those bar graphs, the blue says on the top one, the blue says this is what you must give, and the green is the additional that you invest in schools. At the bottom graph on chart on 18, the blue and the red are what you must give. The green is the additional that you give. We're incredibly grateful for that investment. We do believe that we're providing a return on investment. On page 17, again, you see that 144 choice in number. Keep in mind that there are 4 paths out. There's public school choice out, there's charter schools, there's vocational and technical schools. I'm sorry, I just made that up. There's 3 paths out. I don't know where I came up with the 4th one. So there's 3 ways out, there's 1 way in. And the thing that I'm most pleased about is you look in FY19, we had 94 in, which was good, and 143 out, which wasn't terrible, given the fact that there's 3 roads out and 1 road in. And now you see there's 144 choice in and 100 out on all tabs. Your spending per pupil, you look at page 20 and how your per pupil spending compares to other districts in Hampshire County. You'll see that in the case of Hadley and Hatfield, the reason that your per pupil expenditure is higher is because your denominator is lower, meaning student enrollment. So you have fewer students to distribute costs over.
Your fixed costs are higher.
Correct, right, and fewer students to distribute them over, which drives up your per pupil, which would not be the case in Belchertown. But the last thing, and I'm sorry I spoke too much, but I really want to say the most important thing taxpayers should ask is, boy, that's a heck of a lot of money. What are we getting for it? So I'm particularly proud of some of the accomplishments. Let's just flip to, well, before I tell you what you're getting for it, I also want to give you the last context. You folks are incredibly generous and we really appreciate it. And I think we're responsible partners. On page 19, you can see that first chart is showing you the percentage of the total operating expenses for the town that the school department represented. So in FY19, we were 44%. In FY24, that's down to 35%. In compared to other towns, the data in FY23 is the most recent data that all towns had data available. And you can see that other towns, usually it's closer to the 50% mark, except for in the case of East Hampton. We are the largest budget, but as a percentage of total operating costs, it's far more standard that school departments are at 50 or above.
Mhm.
So what are you getting for your money on page 22? This is just a comparison of the data, the years for which, the most recent years for which data are available. Advanced coursework completion. Why does this matter? This matters greatly. Students who complete advanced coursework in high school are far more likely to persevere in college. They usually end up in college with credits already under their belt. So you can see we're number one in Hampshire County for completion of advanced coursework. On page 21, you can see our accountability ratings for 2024. Our district target percentage, we were the highest in Hampshire County districts. Our high school percentile ranking was the highest for similarly configured schools. And our elementary school percentile ranking was also highest for similarly configured schools. If you see multiple numbers, for example, in Northampton or Amherst Pelham, it's because you have multiple elementary schools. The bottom of 21, I talked to you about our investment in innovation, career and early college program offerings. So these are designated by the state, and you can see, and we actually just got approval for those two new career pathways. We have a designation from the state for every career pathway that is available for state designation. And you can see we're the only district in Hampshire County that does, and there are several other districts that don't have it. The percentage of students on 24 enrolled in digital literacy and computer science. We are in the top 3 there, and this actually, our data was misreported. So I anticipate next year when I show you this chart that we will be number 1. We've added 100% of our students. 100% of elementary students complete digital literacy, computer science. We are wicked proud of that. Cheers to Jen Dowd and her team. And at the high school, we just started offering Project Lead the Way courses. These are courses that if students who successfully complete them, pass a test, in some cases, Worcester Polytech will give them college credit for these courses. We offer now computer science essentials, computer science principles, and cybersecurity in that pathway. Our 23 grads attending higher ed, we're number 2. But Honor walked out, so I'd like to be number 1 in that also. And lastly, percent of students enrolled in arts courses. We are a high percentage, roughly 85%, but we are not the highest in Hampshire County there, but we're always looking to invest in, and we're certainly not cutting those programs, which is really important. And last thing, what does this mean in terms of cash in pocket? In terms of cost avoidance, these courses where students are able to earn college credit. So for example, we have a Seal of Biliteracy program. Many students, whether they take a language at Hopkins Academy and pass a proficiency test, or they came to Hopkins Academy speaking more than one language. So we're seeking out our students now who speak a different language at home. If they pass that test with proficiency and get meeting expectations on ELA MCAS, they can walk into UMass Amherst with 12 college credits done. They have them. If they get it with distinction, they'll have 15 credits. That's a cost avoidance of between $9,000 and $12,000 for a family. The PLTW courses, if they choose to get college credit for those courses, that is a cost avoidance of anywhere between $700 to $1,700 per credit. So I talk too much, but that's a school department budget, and I appreciate you listening.
Wow, we're not often speechless here. There's always some question,
Always appreciate your.
but phenomenal, thank you.
And as somebody who's visual, I like the graph.
Yes, yes. Does anybody have
In terms of your capacity, I know, we looked at that cost per student. In terms of enrollment, how much could you increase without really no increase? In terms of your overall expenses?
Our school choice seats right now that we're advertising are, we have school choice seats we're advertising at every single grade. And I don't have a fixed number for you. I can look it up if you give me a second. I think
Sure.
I'll be able to find it.
No, I'm just curious because obviously you're spending, there's a amount of money that's being allocated, you're spending, but you're not at capacity. In other words, you have tremendous amount of capacity to increase that and lower that cost per student.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Sure, so if we had greater enrollment, exactly what we're
Enrollment.
spending, what you're
Yeah,
spending per pupil,
Yeah,
exactly.
what's your open capacity, open seats
Yeah.
essentially?
We need to try to find, we just voted on it at the school committee. I wanna say that across,
K through 12.
K through 12, I wanna say at least, maybe between 100 and 200 kids. That's not very precise, but I'm gonna try to find, cause I'm just trying to remember.
1 to
what we
200
voted
children? Oh, wow.
School choice.
So like
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah, I think so, between all grades, I'm not across all grades.
We
K
can
through
add,
12.
We can add that.
we can add
K
1
through
to,
12, yeah,
1
let
to
me try
200.
to find,
with no real impact in terms of your budgeting,
correct.
except for maybe some of the support things and
Depending on who,
Who-
but yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
food, obviously for
yeah,
meals and other things like that.
yeah. Trying to find when we voted that on school committee. Do you have, are there other questions too? I'm gonna try to find those.
You guys have
No.
other questions, Peter?
No,
No, Ian?
it's answered most of mine.
Okay, let's see if I can find it.
Do we have a
And if I
liaison?
can't, I will answer you.
Do we have a liaison from us or on the schools?
I don't think we did.
Did we do that?
No, I don't think that you do. I think that it was on, not, I mean, I don't mean to be hurtful. I think it was on me to ask and I don't want to bug you all, but you're
No.
welcome, anybody's welcome to do that.
I can do it.
I think,
You wanna do it?
I'm already on library, so might as well add more educational.
oh, excellent. Okay.
Plus I went,
I mean,
I went through the Hadley school system, so.
I went through the
It's-
Philadelphia school system. That's a lot.
I'm gonna send that out.
The only one is-
Can I answer his question? Andy?
Oh, yes.
You-
That would be
you-
perfect.
Highly
That would be
functional.
perfect.
electrician.
Yeah.
Got mugged in classes. I mean,
I will send Amy the answer to that question of what school choice seats we're advertising, so you know exactly what it is.
She's advertising in Northampton.
I am. I am. I'm going to young reminders. Yeah, I'm
Nice.
really able. I do that.
Great.
Well, they do it, they come, sometimes come around here, it's only fair.
We don't want too many though.
We'll make a commercial if you want it. I got you.
Yeah, I've got a commercial.
I have some,
Oh,
I have
yeah,
some grant
that's
funding
right. Great.
for,
Let's
marketing.
order now and
Talk to you
get
about
the
that.
three,
I
Yeah,
can spend.
get the
more.
steak
one
knives.
student, you get
We-
2 free.
Get 2 free,
We
right.
can spend
Oh,
it on-
okay,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah. I am gonna spend it on
Those
those deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buy some backpacks,
So good, you can do your
Trapper
budget,
keepers.
that'll be good news. I can help you with that.
All right.
Three trapper people with every stand.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wonderful, thank you. This was really helpful and I'm sure we'll be in touch some more when during a quieter time to learn more about what you do. Cause this is
I
great.
appreciate it. I appreciate you giving me that much time.
Oh, it's wonderful. There's a lot to digest here.
So for people who are watching that, this is
Yes, it is. Yes.
so we're looking at what a 25-page HPS budget for FY 26 on the school website.
I think I saw this on one of the, you had this on one of the school,
Yes, because by law, we have to advertise in the paper for 2 weeks
yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
and let people know. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, you wanna keep going? Let's go with that. Since Jennifer is there monitoring, making sure.
I do want extra credit for this, okay?
All right, we can see my screen successfully. It's beautiful. If I can get it correctly here. All right. Present. All right, so as you know, every year I do the health of the department presentation for our finance committee. I did cut some of the beginning part off. I'm gonna do my best to go a little quickly here. So today I do want to talk about our statistics from last year very briefly, what our current state is, what our future could look like, our immediate needs and solutions. So these are our latest numbers from last year, ending in December of 2024. We did see a little bit of a decrease only because our sports are kind of, they do skew the results. There were less tournament games, and then during the beginning of the baseball and softball season, there's only maybe 3 home games per team because they were still working on the fields. So we had less opportunities to go out. But we did gain a lot more YouTube subscribers for our channel. These are our most, they load. These are our most watched programs on YouTube. I use YouTube numbers specifically, and they're a little more accurate, a little more reliable. We do not get numbers for our cable channel. And then these are the most non-sports.
Well, that last night's, the finance committee.
Yeah. There is some buzz about it online.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
Subscript over 18 only.
So that'll load up.
What you missed.
Good for me. I chose the right day.
Yeah.
I chose.
Okay, so for
I
whatever
chose the
reason, it's
wrong
not
week.
loading, but we do have non-sports stuff that people have watched, such as like we had a Memorial Day live stream of people setting up. A lot of people watched that for whatever reason. A lot of the school stuff will pop up. And I think a couple meetings popped up too, our top 5.
Do you have any bands, concerts also online?
Absolutely. Everything we produce in-house or in town will go up on YouTube. Everything we do. We don't hide any. We don't just,
Except last Sunday.
yeah, sure.
An
Not
edited
everything
version of
goes
that
up.
is going up.
It has been up
Okay,
actually.
there we go.
I took care of that earlier. So our activities, so before 2022, at least from my observations, I mean, there wasn't not a lot of public facing activity. From 2019 to 2021, you can see the numbers are far less. In fact, we have over 100% increases since I got here. And then now we're doing more robust video production. We do at least 95% of home games and away games on select days. Meetings like this in select board and any other meeting prevails sports and other events. That is our top priority of the meetings. And then we have a municipal digital equity plan being finalized at the moment. Got the click. Okay. One of the things that we started doing with the COA, we only did this once, is that we have a couple of hard of hearing folks in town, and they were able to go to Coffee of a Cop. Because they were able to read what Lieutenant Cook was saying. And they were able to participate, even ask questions that day. So, and that is a free program right there. It's called Zip Captions. And we were just able to hook up a microphone to it, a wireless microphone that Mitch was wearing. But here's our current state. So I have projections here. So I include our chargebacks into our budget because because chargebacks obviously are like our health insurance and any other thing we have to do. It's pretty much our rent. So I foresee that going up mainly because of salaries. And plus both of our staff members, including myself, are both union. And we see charter revenues trending down. Yes, this went up, but that's only because we negotiated a higher rate. Do not look at that as a trend. In FY24, we're getting 4% of all cable revenue. This year, we're getting 5%, and that's good for 10 years.
It will stay 5% each year for 10 years, you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct, yep. And 5% is the federal cap.
Okay.
And our cable subscribers here are gonna go down. They go down every year. Revenue is very sporadic, mainly, you up the bill. People don't want to pay it all that much, so they drop cable. And then the less cable subscribers you get, the more YouTube subscribers we get. Because they still want to be able to look at all of our, all town information.
The question with the subscribers.
Mhm.
That's residential only, or is that considered, that also adds commercial?
I wanna say could add commercial, they don't give us detailed information unfortunately.
Because this question, obviously, I'm asking is because all the number of hotels,
Mhm.
they all get, well, I know our hotels have Spectrum.
Right,
And is it, and we pay subscription. Our fee structure is per room.
Mhm.
Is that being recognized in their,
So my question for you is, is it like every hotel was like your own TV service, or are you getting actual cable? Like
no,
cable
no,
television?
they're providing the content,
Okay.
but we're paying
Hmm.
per hotel room each.
It's like somebody else's
It's
living room.
incremental. So in other words, a hotel has 100 rooms, it's 100, that cost is 100 rooms. Is that being recognized in their fee structure?
I wanna say it's per dwelling. I could look into that a little bit.
Meaning that should be,
Yeah, part of it.
that should be
Yeah.
part of our fee structure, because or even if there's like a restaurant that has, multiple TVs, they have 5 TVs in their thing, and they're paying per TV, per license. That should be, we should be getting a cut of that, a portion of
I
it.
agree. I mean, it's,
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you guys negotiate with them, it should be very clear on what subscriber it
Definitely
is,
have a subscriber.
yeah.
I could look into a little more for you and get back to you.
Well, because if it's just per subscriber, or if it's per
Household.
total cost. Is it a cost? Are you getting a percentage of the total revenue that they're
Yeah, so
receiving?
yeah, we're getting 5% of all cable revenue in town.
But does it include commercial?
Commercial.
Yeah,
versus
I wanna say
residential.
it does include commercial.
I would just make sure.
Yeah,
I think there's Amy, 1,800 houses in town?
That fact I do not know.
there are
think-
2,200, about 2,250 dwellings in town, both residential and commercial.
So glad there's someone else in the world that is just felt like random fast.
So,
I,
so I think there's technically like 1,800 houses and the
Yeah,
rest would be commercial.
yeah.
So just when you're looking at that number, that might help to know that.
There was 1,852.
Is that, excuse me,
No, this is from way back, when we did the long range planning, we did the, so it's 15 years old, but we had to do 18.
don't think it's changed a whole heck of a lot until we start adding something bigger.
Yeah, and what I go by census data. So whatever the 2020 census was, that's the number I go by.
So when somebody has cable, they're watching, they got whatever, anything from 13 channels to 200 channels. That's generating money. But when somebody drops the TV and is only getting internet, that's when they don't pay it, nothing comes to us.
Exactly.
There's a bill that's been sitting forever in,
It's gonna be 8, this is our 4th session.
right, okay. And I think at the town meeting, you should say something to let people know that they ought to write a letter to their representative and to the governor to move that bill forward. So towns can pick up the revenue on people who have given up. They're just watching streaming, they're just doing internet, because the technology has shifted. So it's kind of like they set up a structure where we all have wired phones. And all of a sudden, everybody's dropped their wired phone and went to, it's a telecommunication percentage.
So good news,
Yeah.
I'm in constant contact with our legislative delegation. With the stuff that's going on in our department. They're both on board, both Senator Comerford and
Right.
Representative Gomez. In fact, Representative Gomez co-signed this current bill before I even asked them. So they're both co-signing, they're both willing to fight it for us, saying, whenever I ask them to co-sign on like a budget thing or something that will help this bill go through, they're on it like almost immediately.
Or maybe it's a Mass Municipal Association thing that our town ought to have the town manager or somebody go to, because this thing is hurting all the, I mean, we're not the only town that's getting hit this way.
Everyone in the country.
So
Yeah.
we have submitted letters as well.
Okay, sorry to tell you what you've already done.
No,
But-
no,
we can.
But I
we
just
can
feel like
Do it again.
bills get put through because of letter writing and postcards and things like that, and enough pressure against, was undoubtedly lobbyists from the cable companies to push the other direction,
And Disney.
and Disney, yes. The mouse again.
Yeah, the mouse is not that great. But I put together a does anyone have us any other questions before I continue? Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So FY 27 is our last operational year before we start going into the negative. So we got 2 years to really try to get us into a path where we're either as part like a regular town department or make it so that the enterprise fund can last a little longer than it is now. I was doing 3% losses. I'm raising it to 5% because I'm gonna be perfectly honest, especially in this economic climate, people are gonna be looking for ways to cut pie. And if cable's it. I mean, personally, I even cut my own cable a couple years ago. It was just too expensive. And then I also did just a little bit of research on what communities, what percentage of every budget is. Now, some are NPOs or nonprofit organizations, so I made a little formula to like simulate if they were a town department. So from what towns I got information from, we are only getting 0.3%, whereas places like Hatfield are getting 0.6% of their budget.
You're talking about spending as a fraction of the budget.
So pretty much I took the revenue and I divided it by.
Zoom into that area. The other way.
Overway, right here. So,
you can see that.
yeah, so I took the revenue. And the revenue. And then I pretty much divided by this to get the percentage. Even though not everyone's getting a percent, not even. I'll get to that a little more. Each 10% does make a difference a little bit.
So you're saying Hatfield is recognizing $91,000 from their,
Yep, so they're a Comcast community.
well, how are they receiving so much more when they're a quarter of the size of us?
Cause it's all dependent on their contract. They get capital grants too. So that's all that. And when they get capital grants, they get it every year. Whereas, well, we don't get capital grants anymore because we're a charter community. But when charter did give capital grants, they gave like 1 or 2 lump sums every so often. Comcast community centers get it every year. It's like when I worked in Granby, we got a $77,000 check every year for capital.
But theirs is, that's significant compared to the difference between our
Do you know what their grant
population.
is?
I'd have to look at their contract. That's easy to do. And a lot of this information I had to get from public records requests because not everything was published. I know. So and Hatfield was one of them. So, and then there's also the NPOs that maybe they have to run like a business and maybe put some of their funds are in an investment account. I know my old station was like that too. We were an NPO. We had like a certain amount of money into investment accounts. And that brought in a significant amount of money. In fact, it's actually, if you read all the IRS 990s, you can see that figure in there. So yeah, I mean, even like, I mean, even a town, West Springfield's bigger than us. They're getting not a whole lot. So I mean, the population doesn't really matter. Percentages are like all over the place.
Yeah.
So looking at our future. If, yeah, it looks scary. So if we start coming to, come to a place where we're not able to keep it going, we're gonna lose school events, sports. We'll have cuts in staff, so instead of have one full-time employee and a part-time employee, it'll be just one part-time employee. Fewer no sports, because we will not have the staff time. Fewer or less community events and information videos, because we will not have the staff time. Fewer municipal meetings like solar, climate change, that happened in this building today.
Yeah.
We won't have the staff time. We'll have to prioritize what we do. So no more Western Mass finals. No more open houses for new businesses, welcoming them to our community. No more informational videos on what's going on in other town departments. No more smaller little meetings. So this one was why I wanted to be sure I was in with the schools, because this was a Special Olympics game here. They played against a couple some Hopkins students. And we didn't seek it out. Students at the Key Club asked us to be there and to cover it. And I just want to make sure that we recognize our students and make sure they're part of our community. We want to make sure that is recognized. And then no more groundbreakings and knowing what's going on in the community. Like this dental office here, they help mainly help low income families that are on like Mass Health, because no other provider will do it, and they do it throughout the entire Western Mass region, including the Berkshires. I don't want to play it.
Last night.
Oh, we're still if I'm part-time, you're still getting filmed. But like, and then we have our immediate needs, and I understand the town has been in a financial crunch. We're also in a very unique financial crunch. So some things we could use is a full-time production coordinator, a part-time digital equity assistant. That's 15 hour a week production assistant is not sufficient anymore. With stuff that we're doing. And grants are, in my opinion, are not a great way to fund positions.
Yeah.
And we've been unable to gain interest in volunteers because since COVID-19, we've all become more technical, and it's very hard to get someone in a small town to volunteer for us in a very technical field. And then we need significant upgrades to filming select board meetings. It's a big meeting. It's the most important meeting. And the way we're doing it it's not efficient. So we making sure that we have good succession plans in place, and making sure that we have a place to keep and stay. And just a reminder, FY 27 is our last operational year. If the town were to not charge chargebacks, we could extend it to FY 29 and say chargebacks were no longer a thing this fiscal year. We'd be able to stretch it out to FY 30. Chargebacks are a great way to extend the life, but it's only a short-term solution. We have legislation, we just talked about this. It'd be beneficial, extremely beneficial for our department, but there's no guarantee to pass, it will pass this session. It will take 2 to 3 years before we actually scale out how much revenue we department would get. And I've been saying that for years, even before I came to Hadley. We're trying to have a fee schedule Whether it be sponsorships to sports or like selling DVDs, copies of events, digital copies, USBs, whatever it may be, it's still gonna take a couple years to see actual cash flow.
I bet you if you went about like you were talking about for sponsorship, there's Cal Ripken, there's soccer, there's basketball. That for CYO, that there are people that do sponsoring. I do Cal Ripken. Have a banner that I put for
Mhm.
sponsoring for Cal Ripken. Some things like that when it comes to any type of event, whether if it's basketball, baseball, soccer, band, or any kind of event, having, inviting businesses to sponsoring their business to going about and it be charged exactly, and that goes to the town for advertisement.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I mean, what are the pitfalls with an advertising revenue fund for municipal entity like the media? Like if they were to sell, this program brought to you by Matusko.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I think that is one of the questions we'd have to look into, whether or not we can actually do that, but it's an idea.
Right, I mean, if you would get some kind of a plan together, there's a way we can take it to DOR, their legal, and they will.
Could you do it
Tell us
to
about it.
create a Friends of Hadley Media that would sell that,
Absolutely.
and then he would place the ads and they would collect the money, and
Yeah.
then they would at some point issue grants at the end of the year based on revenue.
I just can't be part of the Friends. It'd be separate.
Right.
Yeah, Friends is a whole different way too, just as with like the library, the senior center, school.
Schools, you know,
Yeah,
Friends of-
have them, they can do a lot of that fundraising for you, and they should be.
And-
And there's booster clubs, being at so rather than doing it yourself, and that's that's personnel too. So instead of you figuring out how we're gonna make some money that you have that the energy
Yeah.
is coming out of another group of supporters and whether you have your own or whether you tap into boosters or others, the band boosters are groups that are benefiting from the coverage. There could be, for starters, a bit of that, getting some, assistance.
And I did make the argument in a letter to the select board once that, on this topic, that even if restaurants were to advertise, that's extra revenue coming into town from food tax. And it's not a lot, but some revenue, it's better than no revenue.
Just one last advice. I know we have the superintendent here, but with your, I guess, wealth of knowledge of all of this, I can see it being some educational opportunities for audio visual.
Like internships and,
Well, even just after school programs, it doesn't have to be part of the curriculum. It could be after school that you can, I don't know if there's funding streams through the school that you can go and teach some courses, maybe not for credit, but at least for.
Internship for it,
That's where my
Yeah,
daughter, she
yeah.
did the Hadley Media internship. It was wonderful, and that's why she decided to go the direction she went in for communications, was because Alex was her mentor.
But-
She was in the business pathway.
But
Yeah.
But are you deriving revenue from that?
We don't derive revenue from it.
I guess, is there a way to go and
I mean,
have the school get funding for?
the
something
school did get funding for that.
And Cassidy got
It's still
paid,
doing it.
not
Um,
Alex.
Yeah, so a place that
Get the
I just said
revenue.
to Alex,
Labor.
let's talk tomorrow, but it's not necessarily sustainable. Remember, the downside with grants are that they
one time.
uneven.
Yeah.
But for marketing purposes, so we don't there could be funding that we have in grants. I was just thinking like right in front of me, oh, you could do all of the marketing and then grant funding that I get to market the programs. I could just,
Exactly.
I'll talk to you tomorrow and then I'll have to talk to you, because I don't know if it's considered a contracted service. If it's another town department, probably is.
Yeah.
But I can figure that out. So,
Sort of.
yes, you're thinking of something that I just said, oh, I can hire this guy. But it's not probably the consistent ongoing revenue stream you're looking for, but every bit helps.
Right.
Yeah.
Just seeing if there's, because especially,
These numbers that we're looking at here, every bit helps, so.
And then just to continue on, broadband, we're talking about broadband. It's again, would be a great revenue source for the town and have the media. It would, however, it's gonna take years to do, even 2 years before we can even start doing something. There's a lot of loopholes we have to go through, or for that. And at this moment, I know, like I said, it's tough. But the only way that we can survive at this moment is to have immediate need and financial intervention from the town. For instance, like the 0.3% or 0.3%, that's 85. If we're 0.6%, it does make a difference. Even 7/10, even 1%. I mean, I'm not saying give us $200,000, but we're much low percentage wise, we're much lower than other communities. And just to give some historical perspective, public access television was born in 1971. Somerville was the first one in Massachusetts. Amherst is probably one of the first ones in Western Massachusetts. 1984, the Cable Act came out, and that there's no other federal funding statute for public access community media. And in 1996, where I was 8 months old when this passed, sorry, Jennifer, the Telecommunications Act was established, and this is the last time a Telecommunications Act was actually signed into law. So we are under a 41-year funding structure. The way our budget's set up, it's not going to sustain. For instance, for example, the select board could at any time can raise or lower water or sewer enterprises or the rates in those enterprises. We have to wait 10 years. And some key takeaways to wrap up here. Our last operational year is FY27. We're losing cable subscribers. Our funding model is 41 years old and needs a local revamp because it ain't happening in the federal government. Technology updates faster than the law. And there's gonna be no federal changes in the foreseeable future as we know it. And that's my presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. I think we asked you questions all the way through, so.
Yeah.
We didn't wait to the end. All right.
I have an answer for you, 174 school choice seats, and I'll send you an email right now, so you have the grid that's available.
Yeah, you could still take in.
Yes, and we haven't identified school choice for kindergarten yet. When you folks see, I just have you on this email.
Yes,
This is
that's
what
fine.
you
I'll
do.
just hit forward.
I have to do your ESP.
Yep, that's it.
Additional.
Amy, if I could point out, I deal with department heads all the time, coming in my office and dealing with various things with their budgeting or how we're gonna pay for this and there's no other department head that comes in and worries about how they're going to be running their department in 2 years because they're running out of money. They're in the mix with the rest of the town. They're worrying about how to run their department. Alex is doing that and worrying about how to bring in for a budget, which is yeah, 87,000. The amount of time that he dedicates to trying to figure out the future of this department, well, we're also really wanting him to be putting on these meetings and going and doing all these, doing the band, the sports, the events in town. That's his job. And yet such a large part of it has to, he recognizes what's happening in 2 years. And I think that's, it's unfortunate so much time has to go into it. So I would like to see I'd like to see us really work on some kind of resolution to how to get a department head back to doing their job and put the fundraising and the how we're going to finance it back on the town.
Very thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sal.
And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to.
Can you send us the deck?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send it to Amy and she'll source out. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely.
This is for Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good to see you today.
I have copies, thank you.
Okay. Oh, okay, I keep this one and this goes to Paul.
Yeah.
And let's, Paul, this senior center, you wanna pass? This one, senior center, you wanna pass?
He's telling me that. So I have 3 budgets. I don't know which one you want to start with. Would you like to start with the select board town administrator budget?
Whatever you'd like.
So this year I had requested that we bring back a clerical person at full time in the department. This position had been in the budget for 2 years and the former town administrator never filled the position. And when they left this year, I immediately brought on a master's degree level intern who's been amazing. Her name's Rita. She did the service delivery plan, if any of y'all were there or have seen that meeting. And I also have a minutes clerk who falls into this clerical position, who does the select board minutes, and now he does the finance committee meeting minutes as well. And so that's where the minutes clerk comes from. I would like to, that's the 122s, Peter.
Page 3.
Is it?
But it's also-
This is
It's
updated.
also.
It's also right here.
You got it, thank you.
So this position was, the intent was for this position to be filled. For whatever reason was the decision of the former town administrator. They did not fill it. And, it's a lot of work in the select board's office. There needs to be a administrative assistant who is doing the basic administrative task of the department. So right now, my job description is assistant procurement officer, licensing coordinator, and executive assistant. So that's everything I do. And I do, the procurement is a skill that you need dedication to, but I'm also running and doing other things, you know, I'm mailing out envelopes and I'm doing the executive session. And it's like, I'm doing all these little things and there's not the support that they need, that I need, that's the town administrator needs. So Paradigm, who is the company that we've hired to help us find a new town administrator, has mentioned their concern over the fact that there's not a additional person in our office, that there's not an additional admin to provide support. And they actually said that they were worried about how this could impact who we hire, because if there's not the support that they need. The Collins Center is also coming out with a report in the next couple of weeks that is also going to state that the select board's office, town administrator's office, does not have that additional support that they need. It's just, I'm doing 5 jobs, the town administrator is doing 4 jobs, and there just needs to be that one more body there. So I put in for it this year, and to bring it back where it was when it hadn't been filled by the previous town administrator. I asked Mike was completely on board, we put it back in, and then here we are in this budget situation that we're in. So of course, we're cutting back down to the $21,000 that is there. This will be the first year that we actually use all of those funds. We have a plan in place to have more support, and it's making a really big difference in what can be done in our office. Especially with Mike going back and forth between the police department and the town offices. I am doing even more than I normally do with the town administrator. So I'm not asking y'all to take money from any other department. at all, because that's not a real request this year in the situation we're in. I really wanted to talk to y'all about the fact that I'm gonna come back next year with the town administrator and express this again, that there needs to be an additional body in this office. It used to be David Nixon did it, and he did all of the procurement, and he did the invoices, and he did all of these things. And then he started moving things off of himself and giving them to me. But nobody ever shifted all of the full-time job that I already had. So we offloaded off the town administrator onto me. But then we didn't have anybody else to go to. And I've been here for about 9.5 years. I love my job. I love what I'm doing. I like the fast pace, but it would be nice to take some of the jobs and have other people doing them and moving it out and having them done in a more efficient manner
Those
for the town.
responsibilities that Nixon gave to you, those would be given back to the newer town administrator, correct? Or,
I don't.
I mean, is that how, I mean, did he take them because no one was able to fulfill them fast enough, or there wasn't enough of people that he took responsible?
Well, David Nixon was not an MCPPO. By default, all town administrators are chief procurement officers for the town, but I'm the only Massachusetts certified purchasing professional in the town. I have my certifications. And so I don't know what the new skill set of the new town administrator is, but I have to imagine things always change with whoever comes in, whoever you hire. Maybe we're gonna get a procurement whiz and they want to do all the procurement.
Is that
But-
part of the hiring requirements to
No.
having that? It's not?
No, it's a nice to have.
Mhm.
And it's not a bad thing to have more than one. Carolyn was working on getting it herself.
Mhm.
But the amount of procurements that the town does cannot realistically be done by the town administrator, who has to do all the other things that a TA has to do. It's just not realistic that you expect a TA to do all of the procurement.
And how many hours did it take you to become the procurement officer?
Oh, I've actually just recertified again for the 3rd time. God, I think it's like 60 hours, and then the certifications get less and less. So, but I don't want to make this about completely about what I'm doing. I just want it to be spoken out loud to y'all that I know this has been cut, but this is something that there is a need. And that both the Community Paradigm and the Collins Center have seen the need. Mike Mason has seen the need. That there's just too much in our office to do. And I think that leads to a lot of stress for the TA. So like I said, I just want to put it out there, food for thought for next year, let it mull around in your head.
This be a part-time or a full-time?
We're
Well,
asking for full-time.
yeah,
We think there's enough work for a full-time position. And I mean, we have done some research. It is not typical for a town of our size to have just one full-time / job in the office that has multiple other roles. Usually someone like a TA has a dedicated either administrative assistant that's dedicated directly to them in the select board, or as a full-time position, or there is essentially an assistant TA. And we don't have that structure here. My opinion, it is going to either be the success of the new person that comes in to have that support, or to the detriment if there's not the support there that they need. You know, there is just too much to do. And, you know, in my short time here, you know, I'm helping out as much as I can too, so. I recognize that there's quite a bit that we're asking a new TA to do, someone that's learning, that's not efficient. And then, you know, asking our workers to do and pick up as well, so.
most places have a procurement office and a licensing coordinator and an assistant to the select board and an assistant to the town administrator, and probably an assistant TA. at the same time. And I'm kind of checking that whole corner for the town.
Yep.
I'm doing all of those things and I am amazing and I do them great. But,
They're gonna be asking for a new town hall with all those positions. now.
well, I mean, if you want to talk about that, I can too.
No.
But I just, like I said, I know this is not happening this year. I will do my very best to support the town administrator as much as I have always done with David and with the former town administrator, Carolyn. I always support them. We make it work, but we could do better. And that's all I want to do. I am doing the upgrades to a couple of things in our budget that are necessary requirements that the website and things like that, they're just not supporting them anymore. So it's time for an upgrade, which it's been 6 years since we did the last website redesign. So it's coming and it's just something that we have to do. This isn't, it's not one of those things where you get to have a choice on that. Do you have any questions about that one?
So is that the board docs website
Yep.
line item?
Yep.
So what is that going towards?
It's gonna be going to an upgrade of the town website and an upgrade to Board Docs, which is the program that the select board uses to run their meetings.
So is that like a vendor?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that gonna be recurring at this level?
Unfortunately, the prices for websites and programs have gone up. I've kept us at the lowest tier possible for a very long time, but they literally, we had a meeting, they literally, like, we're not supporting you anymore. Like, we can't keep our website how it is because they're not going to support it anymore.
No, thank you, I understand that.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that incremental for a $20,000 bump. Is that a
It's-
one-time shot for?
It's
the
gonna be
upgrade?
about 6,000 less, so probably around 14, 15 from now on. There is the upgrade transfer and all the rework on it.
Yeah,
But again, just go ahead and imagine a 3% increase is what I'm seeing with my contracts and stuff. It's just 3%, 3%, 3%.
So is that 3% increase of the 10,000 or is it 3%? I think that's what.
Next year will be, I'm projecting that it's gonna be about 16, 14, let's say 15 next year, because $5,000 roughly is gonna go for the transfer of the things. So from now on, the new price of the higher quality product is gonna be 15
Instead of 10.
instead of 10. I can't keep us at the lower tier anymore.
yeah, and I understand porting and all that.
Yeah, so that's why there's gonna be that's why there's a bump this year, and then we should have a decrease back down. But it needs to be said that I'm seeing a 3% rise just yearly in contracts.
And in the previous years, like now we're getting to about 300% increase from where it was about 2 years ago. So just wondering what the year over year, is that our vendor increasing their pricing? Or-
Yes. So I've locked our pricing in at this lower amount for several years. And I've taken it as far as I can without having to do this massive jump. And, it was attempting to keep our costs down as we were going through sort of the COVID time and everything. There was no money to do upgrades on things. And so I was mindful of that. I worked with our vendors to keep our prices low. But this is what happens when you skip upgrades. And then they're like, we're not supporting you anymore. Then you have to move to the next tier and the prices have gone up exponentially.
And they do all the updates and all of those. So
Yeah.
that's included in the fees.
Yes, I'd love to come back and talk to y'all about it as we get going in the process. They have some nice ADA things now.
Oh, yeah, everything's gonna be ADA.
Yeah, and we do have that. We are ADA compliant. Our website is ADA compliant, but the new stuff is very
There's
nice.
tiers of it.
Mhm.
There's different
We're-
tiers and,
We're basic.
yeah, you gotta be in at least the middle.
But the new products, the new thing, that it comes with it. So I think we'll see a nice increase in what we are receiving as well.
And what they're upgrading us to, is it? I'm guessing we're at really an a tier that doesn't exist anymore. It's already.
Yeah.
So the next tier that is that like their base tier that they?
Yeah.
Okay.
We would go back into their base tier. And honestly, so the company Civics Plus, you can see their websites, like Northampton has the fancier version. I don't particularly love it. I think the one that we have is actually a better product, but it, not only does it have to do with, the tier that you're on, but also your population. So that's how the pricing index works for them. But I'm looking forward to doing it again. I really enjoyed the first website process, and I'm looking forward to the new version of Board Docs as well. One day when we have lots of money, I'd like to put all the boards and committees on Board Docs, just for the record.
That would have been useful tonight. We had so many handouts,
Yeah.
you know, that people at home could have been looking at Annie's handout and.
I would,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I think all of y'all flipped through a select board meeting before. I think it's very useful for the public to be able to lay hands on the documents. Of course, they can request them as a public records request and we'll turn them over. But to have them in real time and be able to see them, I think there's a benefit to that. Any other questions? So I also can talk.
Are you still, any other, I do have a question on this
Yeah,
sheet.
go ahead, please.
And I know that we talked about it earlier, but the 180,000 that we're talking about, the department raises.
Yeah,
Now, 40 of that, you just told us where that belongs, right?
Correct.
40 of it is, and then we have the rest of it. Now, I do understand that they are having, we have negotiations throughout the year and we do have raises, but we've never put a line item in there before for that, where we've always had unions
You
in
wanna know what we did
negotiations.
before? We didn't put them in at all.
Right.
So it would,
And
and then at a future town meeting, in the fall town meeting, just as we did this past year.
We did COLAs and stuff.
Surprise, at special town meeting, we need another 180,000 because everyone just got 3% raise. But it hasn't been negotiated yet. It seemed, especially when we were so tight with the budget and us not wanting to count on future certified free cash to fund the special town meeting. It really seemed the only right thing to do was to factor it in. Otherwise, that we would have been spending that $180,000 on the other departmental budgets that we've had to cut. So if we're going to be giving those kinds of raises, we had to hold a space for
So
it.
when you calculated it,
Mhm. It's 3%.
okay, so
It was like, I mean, it's not
And then-
settled yet. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have even, but we just had to sort of
You-
hedge it.
you just picked a number and you used a number, but did you do it on? Is it only on the unions? Did you do it on all employees? Did you do it on what, how did you come up with that number?
The second, it's the unions and then the ones that would then have to also apply over to others.
We did it on everyone.
no, she did it to department heads, non-union personnel, and the new municipal union employees. That's who this is. It's department heads, non-union personnel, like myself, Joan, there's other confidential employees that
That's
can't
what's
be in
in
it.
here, so it's non-union
Non-union and the municipal union,
and the municipal union, but not like
not DPW, not fire, not
Yeah.
police,
school.
not school, no.
So this would now also, I mean, we used to just wait and do this, like I said, in the fall, and then it was like, okay, what kind of COLA can we afford? And then it'll go retro to July one. Is that
I
right?
think it was, due to the Collins Center is the amount that she's talking to about, so the amount that was voted at special town meeting, is that the amount that
That
you're
was done last year.
asking about last year?
That's
No,
the
that was
amount in
done
the
before.
25, Lauren, is the 200.
Okay,
And then if you look at 26, we have another 180 in there.
okay.
That would be for 26 raises.
But the 200, we didn't do that last year.
We-
That was done last year at fall.
A fall town
Right.
meeting.
Correct, yeah.
Right, right, so that, hopefully won't happen to us this fall town meeting. That we won't have this pop-up figure that we have now is that right?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
no, no,
okay.
no pop-ups,
Yeah.
no pop-ups.
We're budgeting it.
That's what we're,
budgeting it.
that's what we're hoping. That's
We're
what we're
hoping.
hoping. We don't know
And
where
we,
it's gonna
yeah,
come
but
in,
it hasn't
but-
been settled, so we don't exactly know. We had to, like you said, we had to pick, it might be, we had a range and we had to pick and go. Doing our best.
So, but if I have to guess, next year, if I'm looking at this, 40 of it will be completely out of there because it's gonna be in the, we're gonna adjust
So
the
hope-
COA, so that will be a big,
So the hope will be, so a lot of our contracts are under negotiation 5 of the 6. Hopefully for 3-year contracts where department heads can actually budget and factor it into their own departmental budgets in terms of the salaries that are gonna occur for the next fiscal year. So that is kind of the goal, is to ensure that the contracts are all up to date. Department heads can go in for their union employees, and even the purpose of the Collins Center, and getting that wage grid out is to try to make sure we can do that for non-union personnel as well, to be able to budget and keep that in the departmental budgets versus here, if that makes sense. In the future,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, we had no other place to put it except to ignore it, which would be not fair to us looking, come special town meeting. We're trying to get out of that cycle,
Right.
but it takes time. It takes time, just as not using the future free cash, we're digging out of some bad habits.
Habits.
Yeah.
This is
And
the
there was no
change
way for
Getting all the
department
grant
heads
money
to
visible, so-
forecast that,
in their individual budgets.
right?
So we did a big one in the select board line item. I did make a very fierce argument to get to keep all of that money, but they shot me down.
She did. It was short. 40 of it's not going to the 40 was the amount of the 200 that's going into her budget. I think the amount from the grants going forward, it was, if we pulled out of grants, I think we were down to 10 to 15.
She was referring to this fiscal year,
Yeah,
the
this
40,
fiscal year.
this fiscal year
Yeah.
40,
So-
not next fiscal year.
She doesn't have a big chunk of, she just has that, the rest of the grant, and I honestly don't remember. I think my memory is 10 to 15
Right.
for the balance of it.
So for the COA for FY 26, there's one person out of that amount of money, and that's Nikki herself. That's it. All of her staff is in the municipal union.
Mhm.
And they're going to have whatever the union negotiates.
Yeah.
Only Nikki's salary would come out of this 180, her increase.
and how about the difference between that 10,000 from that full-time person?
Linda?
The full-time,
The part that's in the grant?
yeah, there was just 10,000 difference.
That's, and that would be, we've already funded her 26 budget, which still relies on grants.
Mhm.
So we're talking about for 27, we're going to try and get the rest of the way on that one. So her 26 budget,
We had
Is set.
allocated 10,000, right? We put 10,000 into the budget. Is how we did it. We said next year we'd put 10,000
Yes.
into the budget until we
Yes.
get the positions
Yes.
fully in there.
we're
Easy.
stepping
Yeah.
up, we're stepping it up. So 26 is set, she understands. We still have to rely on the grant for the rest of it in 26. And then we're going to, if we can get out of it completely in 27, we will.
And under those future budgets, you'll have a grant money line item. If the grants are available and being applied. Or is that
No,
just going
no,
into the general?
No,
fund?
we're not using the grants for it. The grants, if we get grants, it will not be for personnel. If we get grants, it will be for programs and
Just these are.
other ones. We can't,
Right, but it'll still be within the department budget.
we don't put grants in budgets, any grants in any
Okay.
budgets. Annie lists certain grants separately, if they're not in the school budget. either.
I'm just confused why there was just one person or just one,
Thank you.
one job that was
Oh, yeah.
different than all the others,
I owe you.
just the way it's
That's
done.
right.
Oh, there's one that's
Yeah.
I don't know
left.
if that
There were
needed,
2 or
but-
3 at one point. I don't know how it
Appreciate
got
it.
that way in the first place. I honestly
Yeah.
don't.
The, to my understanding, the old COA director had done that. I don't know
Yeah, I
why.
think that's a way of, and it's something that we really have to stay on top of, and I think that the current directors that we're working with understand that, when this is your budget, this is your budget, and you don't add personnel by using your grant and going and getting somebody and hiring somebody and saying, don't worry, you don't have to pay for it, because that's not true. We do have to pay the benefits on that person.
I see.
And if they're dropped, we would have to pay unemployment on them, so we
Yeah.
need to have the personnel in their budgets. So I think it's just a matter of, this was just how things were done at one point.
Okay.
And it was great, and people were happy not to put it, it's not in the budget, they're happy to have it paid by the grant, but now we see the implications of it.
Okay.
And if I could add too, I think there's also an added layer in there with the municipal union where people just can't add positions, without, kind of going through me and me going through the union and, there's a process to that. So, I think that in the future certainly will be mitigated, so that, people aren't going out getting grants, hiring people, and then we're stuck funding, that in the future. So just to,
So if they were hired under grant, Lauren, and they were over the 20-hour year, they would still be under union.
oh yeah, if they meet the criteria, they would fall under the union, yeah.
Well, there's something else, yeah.
And this employee that we're referring to is part of the municipal union,
Yes,
and that is in the 180.
I'm sorry.
That is in the 180 here in that line item. Okay. So Nikki and the person are covered in the.
Well, oh, you're
No, this-
right. They're municipal
I don't
unions.
have the list.
He's so right. You're right. I'm so sorry. You're right. The municipal union. Yep. But the 40,000 is for this year, not next year. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your participation.
You wanna go to the next one? She's got more.
Okay.
She's not done.
Wait,
I
there's
got
more.
it. Right back. Go ahead.
So I also have the legal budget. If y'all want to discuss that, there's really nothing exciting there.
As
Yeah,
long as you tell us it's going down.
it's exactly what's in the book.
There's-
So I didn't give you a handout on that.
Yeah,
one.
there's nothing's changed. I switched our allocation a little bit to litigation to just sort of spread it out a little bit based off of our previous uses, but it's the exact same amount of money.
Mhm.
It just reads differently when you're looking at the budget line.
Yeah, that's
Um,
28.
So the next one is the town building operations budget, that's electricity.
And if I could jump in and tell them, this is just, last night we had the building maintenance one, which we had all the specifics of. All the breakdown, and then we had the summary budget,
We have
which
the
is the one
breakdown.
that you see in the book. So you've got budget 190.
190, which is page. I don't know.
I went too far.
I have a question on the legal. Is the
31.
just quick question, is on legal, do we have a set, or is it each time we call?
No, we have a fee, a negotiated monthly fee
Oh,
for town council services. What's not covered in that is litigation and labor.
Okay.
And so that's why I asked Linda to just flip my budget around a little bit and make it divided a little more evenly. But that is it. We have a set negotiated amount with them.
Thank you.
So, with the building operations, I asked where we needed it for increases, but with utilities, there's not a lot of places you can go. There's not really anything you can do. We are going to run short in a few departments. That's where we are. It has to do with increases, but I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have. I do know, that y'all might have some concerns about it. I'm happy to address them.
How often do you review each department head's usage with them?
For the electricity,
Everything.
Actually, not that often. I just sort of follow the trends of what's coming on from year after year after year. I have it broken down. Sort of how Linda does, I have it broken down. And I'm able to see month by month what they have going on. And nobody's had like a massive spike. The spike you see is actually rate increases. It's not that their usage has changed. It's that the rates have gone up.
But they're not reviewing.
They're not. We could look at implementing a review, an annual review on utilities.
And in terms of just efficiencies or inefficiencies in building, I guess who would be in charge? Is there like, would that be the DPW or be the building
It's usually
commissioner?
Gary and DPW, because the buildings like this, I'm not too sure about this, but the town hall, with the fire station, they're all on an energy management system. So I don't know if they're monitored outside,
Yeah,
but they are all done where one of them looks up, sees what the temperatures are. Whether if there's a way of lowering the temperatures down within the threshold, and instead of being a 72-degree building, what's considered legal to have, you're not setting it down to 65. But saying you're setting it down to 70 to reserving your energy consumption, but there is an energy management system that these buildings have.
And it's a monitored system, and Gary is the one that monitors it.
okay.
And like for the library, like the lights are programmed, and I'm pretty sure they're programmed. Actually, I know they're programmed here too. So they're not, I don't think there's the waste that maybe there would be, if I forget a light at town hall, then you're all gonna see it overnight as you drive by the building. But here they're going off, at the library, they're going off, at public safety, they are. And I think it's just one of those things, as you upgrade buildings, we're gonna build those in.
So there's technology involved in it.
There is technology involved in this. Absolutely.
Well, we want to make sure that there's also incentives to review these technology settings or see if there's drift or if there's opportunity to improve upon them. I mean, you start off a new building, and if this is if nobody's looked at it in the 5 years that we've had this building,
Mhm.
who's to say that the settings really were?
I know that the seniors would like it to be warmer all the time. I do know that.
Right.
I
Well, all right, this building may have been the wrong one to pick, but maybe the library.
I'm just saying, I've heard very strongly on this one.
They don't get.
I don't know, but I can check in with Gary, and I can check in with the department heads, and we can look at doing a review on what's happening within the buildings. Nobody's, like I said, you just going, anecdotally off the little usage chart off at the back. Nobody's uses have spiked in any way that would catch my attention to make me pry deeper into it.
We have a energy conservation and green committee in town, right?
We do.
So I didn't know if there's opportunities to review a building or.
Well, that's actually interesting. I actually met with an energy audit company, and that might be something that we're bringing to town for the community, and I imagine that town buildings would be able to participate as well.
Mass save or
I
whatever.
think there was
Yeah.
an audit that was done that the $130,000 was put into, was it insulating at the town hall, or some money was spent?
Oh, are you talking about in the past?
The school.
Was it at the school?
Yeah,
Was
that
that
was
at the school?
That's part of
Okay.
the green communities.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the green communities money there. It's all being used, mostly being used at the school with doing, what do you call the stuff that you stick in the doors?
Weather sealing?
Weather sealing, thank you, and insulation and things like that. So, the other things on here are equipment maintenance, postage. Postage is a constant source of worry for me. They're talking about raising the cent.
I was gonna say, we meter,
We are metered.
so we can't take advantage of forever stamps or anything, right?
No,
Uh-huh.
we do get a cheaper rate on the
Okay.
meter.
Do we?
But it's not significant, and they're talking about raising it again 5 cents. So, unfortunately, that's just the cost of doing business. I am looking at, switching over my licensing to fully, electronic, so that will save some money in postage. I'm right after right after the collector's office, I'm the next biggest user of postage. Well, collector, town clerk on election years, and then me. Because I mail out so many licenses and renewal packets. So if I can flip that all electronic, there'll be cost savings there.
I mean, I know, and again, it's also insignificant, but I know I always get the tax bills. There's one quarter where you get the tax bills and then like 3 days later, the water bills, I think, appear shortly after that, and we can't mail those together, though, right?
I am not
That's
gonna
probably a
speak,
hassle to.
I am not gonna speak to
Oh,
what the
it-
town collector's office can or cannot do. I would imagine that,
Probably a nightmare coordination.
well, that, you know, I do know that they do some stuffing of invoices, and I do know Susan raised her hand. if you'd like to talk to her. Alright, I'll ask Susan to unmute. She did follow directions though, I love it.
I did follow directions. Yeah, Paul, we cannot. Actually, the law states that we can put
Yep.
no more than what is a first-class stamp on an envelope. And what we know we can do is we can send 3 or 4 bills together without
Yeah.
going over that rate, but we
Right.
cannot, but we
Mhm.
can't, we have to do them separately.
That's fine, it was just, I mean, it's not gonna turn into a lot of money, it's just pennies.
Actually, it does turn into a lot of money when we multiple stuff, but yeah.
Can a household, I'm guessing, mailing it out is probably mandatory, but can a household opt out for mailing and just receive it electronically?
I'm working with a company now where our bills could be paid virtually. You can get the bills virtually online. And it's not going to cost us anything. It's just going to be, there's some logistics involved in it. So I'm kind of hoping that might be able to happen by July. It would mean changing from Unibank to another, actually our software company, who is partnered with Point and Pay to be able to do this stuff. But it's still kind of, it's in the infancy of this whole thing because it was a meeting last week.
Great.
Thank you, Susan. No, absolutely. Are there any other items that y'all would like me to address? I know the library electricity is always of interest. Just,
No,
Yeah,
you're
it's
right.
easy to read.
Only in the heating season, not in the cooling
I
season.
just want to point out,
No, no.
when you're adding up the library electricity and comparing it to other buildings, please make sure that you're adding that other building's electricity and heat to what you're seeing.
Right.
Because that is the library. It is their heat and their electricity. So just to apples, you gotta add that heating line up into the library's electricity line to have it be even. So I know that always seems to pop up, and I just want people to remember that. It's a twofer.
Yeah.
Heat pumps.
Other stuff, the telephones are expensive. Our copier lease, I've been able to renew that one more year, again, trying to keep it as efficient as possible in this tight budget season. I am going to have to replace it because it is going on its 5th year and we do use it pretty heavily. We do maintain it. We have it serviced regularly, but it is going to be a cost. It's going to be coming up again, but we lease it. We don't own it.
So they're not responsible for replacing it?
We lease a machine for 5 years, or 3 years, but I've extended for 2 years. They are not in charge of replacing. We'd have to replace it again. And it's just another lease. We would just.
Right,
lease it
but if
again.
it breaks, then they.
Oh, no, absolutely, they
Yeah,
replace
okay.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
but they do maintain it, like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
make sure we get everything scheduled regularly. We're thoughtful with it, so I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to not have to renew at a higher rate. To go ahead and change a lease to a new machine at a higher rate by maintaining this
Mhm.
machine so well, it's carried us longer. They like you to renew at 3 years,
Yeah.
so. That has been something that I've worked on as a cost savings. And then, I think that's truly it. The tech services has a little bump, but it's a little bump. And that's just an increase in the contract. and Linda added to the town hall supply line. I'm going to take over. The 190 budget is going to take over most of the purchasing of office supplies to sort of have a centralized purchasing, which sort of falls into that procurement land. And then we'll have a supply room and people will be able to come up and do that. So it takes it out of the individual budgets and puts it over into the 190s budget. And we've gone ahead and sort of opened up the supply room and people are already starting to use it. So I think that that will be useful for the town moving forward.
Some economies of scale to realize when you're purchasing.
Yes, that is the hope. That we'll see it recognized.
So there were a number of cuts in departmental budgets on the supplies line, and you can't cut supplies that are personal, that are individual to that department, you know. If they need letterhead with their name on it, or if the collector has special envelopes for sending things out, they have to order them themselves, as do I, because we send out all the checks, so there's not gonna be standard window envelopes that the town uses. But, you know, when I run out of staples, I'm not going to order staples. Just go down the hall, and we want that from all of the town hall departments too, to like, don't reorder staples, come and check the closet first, because they're gonna keep supplied.
We do not have to buy paper clips or staples for the next 40 to 60 years.
Some stashes have been found.
Massive.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, if you need some, I've got plenty, cause I.
Bring them on over,
I
I'll
shut
add it
myself
to
in,
it.
you know.
Yeah.
No, actually, I don't wanna hold this meeting up, but I do believe that on our website, we should have Hadley needs. And it's a page where all the departments can list things that they're looking for. They could be shelving, they could be a file cabinet, things that public businesses who are closing down or downsizing would be willing to donate, because you can't, some of the stuff you can't get anything for anyway. And they might be things that people would like, even reams of paper. You just don't know, okay?
We will take all your paper. in a
Yeah.
Heartbeat.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I mean, we can completely look into that. There's sections in there for businesses that
Yeah.
we could put that in there. There's certain things that, you know, are town specific. Please, if anybody is watching and listening, please don't bring us your file cabinets. Please.
no,
don't
I
bring
think
them.
you list the stuff on the site and
Take
people
ours.
should then,
Yeah,
people should then call and say, hey, I have this, and,
Yeah.
you know, and somebody should take the stuff off if you have it.
we've
Like,
actually
no
had
paper clips.
some happen that way already.
Mhm.
There's a couple of tables that have found their way into town hall that have been really useful, and a couple of really nice desks for some of our departments. So we have done that as businesses have closed. And we actually received a very generous donation from Pearson when they closed their offices over here. They gave us, I believe the schools also took advantage of it. I think they gave us like 70 monitors. The town took 25,
Mhm.
and I believe the schools took the rest of them. And they also gave us lots of other equipment, no computers or anything, but like the surge protectors and things like that, battery backed up surge protectors,
Mhm.
which are very nice.
Yep.
So we have taken advantage of those situations when they come to us.
Now we just need somebody to donate a fire truck
Yeah,
I will put it.
and water tanks.
I will put it on the need.
We can put that-
I will make the
Put that
needs
on.
list later tonight.
just
and put
never
that
know,
in
you
there.
know, somebody gets a present of a fire truck, they really don't want it, and they wanna regift it,
What do you do?
we will take it.
Exactly,
Yes.
we'll take it off your
You
hands.
do
The
have certain,
Hadley wish list,
The Hadley
fire
wish
truck,
list.
water tanks, DPW building,
only one for the.
We will
paper
not-
clips,
we will take your
and reams of
medical-
paper.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I will get on that, but no, not to
Yeah.
hold us up or keep us here longer, but is there anything else?
I'm good. Everybody else good?
Okay, great. Thank y'all.
Thank
Thank you.
And I feel like the meeting's been a success because nobody did anything naughty.
Oh, we're not done.
No?
Not done.
I'm sorry, I was leaving. I'm like, thank you all.
But this will be good, I mean, good, yeah, it'll be good, but it'll be also quick. I just wanted to address some things that are in the and town treasurer budget. And this relates to
24.
our 26 funding. If you recall, we're using the OPEB by canceling the OPEB for 25 budget, and also a computer program that we have not been able to get up and running successfully in the treasurer one. We are able to use those funds from 25, and I'm talking here about the software maintenance, it was the 27 through 73. A little more than 25,000 of that was the budget and capital program, which we got started in 24. And that is when my assistant dropped out, a half-time assistant left. And we went 3 months through budget season with no assistance at all. We were just not able to get it up and running for for that budget season. And then we didn't get Dee Dee in really until I had a temp person in for a few months, and we got Dee Dee in started full-time in the fall, fortunately, but by then we're already into a new season. So I thought, I'm just not gonna get it going now. Maybe I'm not the one who's going to get it going. So let's drop this 25,000 out. That's going to happen at the special town meeting. We're gonna reduce this budget by 25, just as we're reducing the OPEB one. And there was a question that Jennifer and I had spoken with town council. We can do this, right? And she goes, I don't know that you can do this. And I said, okay. And I had I met by Zoom with Department of Revenue attorney from Department of Local Services. And he said, yes, you can do that. We can divert the free cash from the 25 budget to the 26. He says, we generally don't recommend this because we like to see the cash coming in and having it certified for the next year. But it sounds like under your circumstances and what you're doing, and the very fact that you're asking the question means you know something about what you're doing. He says, I think that you're going to be, you'll be fine with this one. I said, basically, we're only making the cut so that we can use it. Otherwise, I would just leave those alone. It's fine with the Department of Revenue, so let's do it, and then we have that much less of a problem with our 26 budget. So it shows the 27 now, but if you look to the request and the amount for on that line for 26, we're not going to fund it in 26 at all. If we are able to get this back under consideration for 27, well, that's another time, and we'll deal with our situation then.
Jump off that cliff when we
We'll
get
see,
there.
we'll figure that out when we get there and see if it's worth doing. Meanwhile, the spreadsheet we have and some of the projection software, forecasting software that's available, or the spreadsheets that are available through Department of Revenue, we are making more use of those, and hopefully that will help us. I know there's a capital one too, which I'm going to take a look at and see if what the state has available is something that we can use. And if it makes sense, I mean, it so clearly made sense in everything that we were talking about with getting payroll done. Whether this makes sense or not depends completely on how good the software is. And I just wasn't finding it as immediately user-friendly as it had appeared to be. And the time that I was able to put into it, I was not, I was getting further and further behind it, and just, can't throw good money after bad money, good money after bad. So we can make better use of the money elsewhere. Let's see, is there anything else? I just wanted to point out that we have some jumps in, and this is true for both the collectors and the treasurers, that in the select board budget. This again is something that started when Susan and I started taking more of the workload from the town administrator. But we didn't think that it would be permanent. We thought, well, when another one comes in, maybe these services will move back in. And when they evaluated us for our, on the pay scale, they gave us a single. It's just getting silly doing this division each year, and they gave us a single amount for all of the work that we do. Both of us are taking on additional roles. And we thought, okay, we'll just put it in our budgets and we'll deal with the rest again another time. So for now, I am as the finance director and treasurer. My salary has moved over in part to this line, along with the other raises. Also, the assistant treasurer, that was one of the ones that was a transfer in 25. I'm just trying to explain why the large jump into 26. It's not really a jump because she It's another jump that isn't a jump, because she was, we switched the part-time and full-time. My assistant treasurer has been down in the inspections office, and she came up full-time in the fall, and then they were part-time, but I think they may be, and I'm not quite sure how it's working out down there, but I know it worked out for me that she came up full-time and has been doing a fantastic job. And one reason that went to full-time is so that I would, again, increase more of the responsibilities that I was taking on as finance director, more of the financial things from the town and from the interim town administrator, who, you know, is not working full-time. So all of this still needed to be done. The future of this role, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do next year. I don't know what they're gonna do when they get a new town administrator. But I'm rolling with it, so I'm hoping you will too. Any questions?
Thank you very much
All
for
right.
all your work and reports and answering all our questions, and I know sometimes feels like, must feel like it's personal, like we're, you know, questioning your authority or what you're, but you gotta roll with that, because, you know, I think everybody here appreciates the work you're doing very, very much, so. I know we're not supposed to applaud at these meetings, but I think.
Okay.
thank you very much for your work.
No need. All right, as long as.
Are we all gonna stand up and do it?
Yeah, that's all.
Are there, I think this was your last scheduled meeting with departments. Are there any that you, as you've gone through the book, you say, why didn't they come in? Or you have some questions that. I think that the reason department heads didn't come is they felt like it was kind of self-explanatory, not a lot of changes in their budgets, or the
Well, that-
smaller ones.
Yeah,
So-
last year, remember, we offered, that's
Yeah.
when we started not seeing everybody, because they have,
Right,
you know, park and recs, and the ones that are just not changing, they're
Yeah.
very, you know.
I think we just
they are
wanna
what
make
they are.
sure
Yeah, no,
that
we're-
you're not left hanging,
No.
that without some information that you would have. If you are, it's not too late. You send questions and we can answer them.
no,
And y'all are posted for Monday already,
okay,
for 6 p.m. with select board.
okay, excellent. We need a motion. You ready? Amy, you got anything else? You want to get something?
Do your minutes.
Oh.
Your minutes?
Oh, for tonight?
You told me to put them on there, didn't you?
Oh, I did, but,
Well, we said we-
I
because the
said,
meeting
he
went so
said that
long.
it's so
Okay.
long, I
It
said,
went so long, we were gonna let it pass.
yeah, I,
You want a motion? Do you need a motion to
Yes,
do that?
please. Yes.
Well, no, to move the minutes? Do we need a motion just to move it to the next meeting, or no, we don't? Okay, so a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right.
all in favor? Aye.
Thank you, everybody out there.